This novel was requested by Emperor Titus, leader of the Mormor Legion. I got a new skill every time. WN CH41-60 CH41. Then, let's have a toast to the inauguration of Wafa as a hero. Cheers. We clinked wooden mugs together in the corner of the biggest bar in the town of Pauana. We had taken the liberty of renting a private room, so we didn't have to worry about the eyes of other people here. After that, when I joined Tia and the others and returned to the arena, the match was already over. So, I couldn't see the fight between Wafa and Dobin in person. Oh, here. I dodged this with a paper-thin margin and stepped in, which affected the subsequent attack and defense. Yeah, if he had stepped back as quickly as he could at this point, I would have hated it very much. Really? Damn, but that wouldn't have led to the next attack, would it? That's a magical tool that recorded images. I had secretly set it up in advance to make sure I didn't miss it, and we would be able to look back on the fight. Wafa and Dobin and I were excitedly discussing the game from our seats, while Tia and Mima were beside me, drinking their drinks with a delicate look on their faces. I don't understand what's so great about it, but as expected it's difficult for Mima-chan to understand. It's not so bad looking at it, but I'm sure I would be beaten in the blink of an eye if I actually had to face him, you know. Really? Tia-san, you are so strong. Ha, I knew my Ana-chan was amazing. I glanced toward Tia and Mima and overheard them talking about it. By the way, getting defeated in the blink of an eye didn't mean Tia was weak, but that she didn't stand a chance in a match that was focused on close range with no prior use of support magic. But it's still amazing. Hey, Ed, where the hell did you get this? What? No, I just bought this from a random peddler, so I don't know the details. Suddenly asked by Dobin, I replied with a subtle expression on my face. This thing I was using this time was bought during my trip with Alexis and the others, so I was not sure if there were similar magical tools in this world. I had never heard of it, at least not in my first round, so it probably didn't exist. Not from the country of Hairless. I've never been to one, but I've heard that in Hairless countries there are lots of useful tools like this. Wafa said. Really? Che, I'd like to go there at least once if they didn't give me that condescending look. Dobin replied. Ha. These advanced magical tools are often made by individuals, so I just happened to get lucky. I said. I want to be lucky too. Wafa said. Oh, it's good to be lucky, isn't it? After all, when you're lucky, everything works out, right? Dobin replied. That's so awesome. Ha. You're way too drunk, Ana-chan. Wafa-san, you too. I can't help it. Wafa and Dobin, who had gotten friendly and drunk, looked at each other and laughed as I made a fool of myself. There was not the slightest hint of animosity between the two, and Mima didn't look gloomy as she looked at them. I guess Tia did a good job on that side. Yoshi. At this rate, we would be able to overcome the last hurdle. And so, after a pleasant victory celebration, we returned to our respective lodgings, to our respective rooms. But tonight, Tia sneaked into my room again. What? Cool. Yes, come in. What a bummer. Smiling at Tia, who lightly brushed me off with an apologetic look, I made my usual cup of tea and put it on the table. But still, it was a really great match between the two of them. Yeah, I didn't expect Dobin to be that strong. Hey, Ed, what would you have done if Dobin had won? In that case, we would have had to accompany Dobin. He would surely accept the two of us if we honestly told him we have a reason why we have to accompany the hero. In other words, you were fine with either of them winning? That's very smart of you. It's natural, don't you agree? I'm not stupid enough to take a gamble without insurance. It was true that I was rooting for Wafa and believed in him, but that didn't mean I was just a fool not to be prepared for any unexpected outcome. That was the case if it were just me, but now that Tia was with me, it was even more logical to work it out so that I could win no matter which side I bet on. So, I think we got this one figured out. But what about that other dude? It's fine. I just knocked him out like Ed told me to, so I don't think he's in any trouble. That's fine then. I don't think they're going to try to make a fuss about reputation, because it's public backstage, and if that's the case, this will solve the problem. So, was there someone important working behind the scenes? The Minister Brute, who recommended Wafa as a hero candidate, was the mastermind behind it. I didn't think I'd get to meet him, though. There was no reason for Brute himself to be the one to negotiate with Dobin in that situation. In fact, Considering the possibility of being attacked by an angry Doban, it was only natural to send an appropriate messenger. And yet, Brute was there. Perhaps it was his own sincere intention as a person who is loyal to the nation even if it means getting his own hands dirty. Well, I didn't feel sorry for him, and I didn't think he would want me to feel sorry for him, because it was just a matter of self-satisfaction. Anyway, I don't think they're going to do anything more since Wafa has become a hero. So, the last remaining obstacle is the Kuronuri attack on the village where Doban was born. I nodded with a mysterious look on my face at Tia's words, as she put down her teacup. It would be best if we could prevent the attack itself, but that's not going to happen. As I said before, I don't remember the exact date and time, and there's no reason to let Wafa stay in the village with us. But we can't stay separate from Wafa, either. Wafa, now that he had become a hero, must now go around the country and solve various problems. Under such circumstances, we couldn't let him stay in a small village in the countryside for a long period of time without a reason, and if I and Tia went off on our own, we didn't know what kind of decision God would make. If it was nothing, or just that the count didn't go forward for the amount of time we were away, it wouldn't matter, but we did not want to reset the count or, conversely, be deemed expelled and deported just for being away. Even though I'd like to leave eventually, I won't be able to sleep peacefully if I was sent back when I knew the enemy was coming in this world. Can't we take out the Kuronuri beforehand, or fortify the village? That's just absurd. We still don't know the laws that govern the outbreak of Kuronuri, so it's impossible to defeat them in advance, and the village is protected. What would Tia do if a stranger came out of the blue and said, "Let's fortify the village"? What would I do? Well, I would kick them out, right? That's the answer. If someone who was only an acquaintance of Doban's created something that was not needed currently in the village, at best they would be kicked out by the entire village, at worst they would be caught and put in jail, and in some cases, there might even be killed. On the other hand, there was no way I could build a wall or a turret secretly, nor could I operate it alone, so I could not think of a way to make the village being attacked itself not happen. I've already prepared for an attack, so even if they are attacked, it shouldn't be serious. So, in reality, it is just a matter of adjusting where Wafa is going and being as close as possible to the village around the time of the attack. The world was full of irrationality, and there were some things we could not change, even if we knew the future. But even if we couldn't change the beginning, we had proven that we could change the end. We have a little more than 2 months before it happens. If we and Wafa train hard in the meantime, the Kuronuri raid won't be a big deal. I agree. The moment they attack, let's get together and fight them back. Tia also clenched her fists in front of her chest and fired up. If all went well, we would only have a few more days left to stay in this world. We would make it all the way to the end. CH42. Used. It had been 3 months since Wafa officially became a hero. I honestly didn't know if the timing was the same as during the first round because I had changed a lot of things. But finally, the time came. Luckily, we were now in a small town inn. It didn't mean we were in the middle of doing a jobs from where we won't be able to move quickly. I jumped up and immediately ran out of my room and knocked somewhat roughly on the door of Tia's room. Oi, Tia, wake up. Matilda. What, Ed, at this hour? The warding stone I gave Mima was used. Perhaps the village is being attacked right now. What? At my words, Tia's sleepy eyes widened in surprise. However, it was only for a moment. I knocked on the door of the room of Wafa next door, leaving Tia to get ready right away. Wafu. What is it, Ed? It's still nighttime. Listen, Wafa, probably, the village where Mima, Doban's sister lives is now being attacked by the Kuronuris. What do you mean? Explain in detail. Wafa, who was also sleepily rubbing his eyes, was instantly awakened by my words. Accepting his serious gaze directly, I continued to explain further. Among the strange tools I bought from a peddler was a warding stone which could be smashed into the ground and breaken to create a kind of wall that would keep the Kuronurus out for a short time. I gave it to Mima when we parted after the selection tournament, and it has just been used. I know you have a lot of questions, but I want you to get ready to help them right away. Will you go with me? Naturally. I, being a hero, would never abandon my own people, without asking why or how. Wafa nodded vigorously and immediately began to get ready. Yeah, I knew this guy was great. In order to live up to this trust, I must do everything in my power to bring about the best possible outcome. I returned to my room, quickly prepared myself, and the three of us left the inn together. Normally, the town gates would not be open because it was late at night, but there was no problem there with Wafa's heroic privilege. "Ed, do you know where it is?" "No problem. It's this way." After that, I led the way and we ran through the night, taking full advantage of the auto-mapping, sometimes taking somewhat large detours on city streets, sometimes running through the woods at our peril, traveling the shortest distance in the truest sense of the word, which was faster than charging down a straight line. "Ed, we'll make it, right?" Tia asked. "I don't know, but there's nothing more we can do about it." The response from the warding stone I gave to Mima disappeared from my banishment skill, Akashic Compass, about 3 hours ago. Normally, it would take at least half a day for a messenger from the village to rush to the nearby town. From there, it would take at least a day to a day and a half for it to reach Wafa's ears through the guild or whatever, no matter how fast. But we were ignoring all that time and suddenly heading out to the field. With a day and a half advantage, I could only assume that it would be fine. "Hey, Ed, is Doban in that village?" Wafa asked. He should be. I had never been to Doban's village, so I could not confirm this by auto-mapping. But if he was there during the first round, it was unlikely he would not be there this time. At least we still had Mima's response. Meaning, they were still alive, so we would be able to fight against a large number of Kuran-Yuris. Then, there is no problem. He should be able to defend the village until we arrive. "Yeah, that's right." Wafa's words, which did not disrupt due to ragged breathing even after all this running, made me smile a little. We continued running, and after a while we could see a large number of Kuran-Yuris ahead of us. "Amazing, so many." "What are we going to do, Ed?" Tia asked. "It's obvious, isn't it? We're going to take them all down and push through." Tia grinned at me when I asked her, and me and Wafa plunged straight into the large army of Kuran-Yuris. I was not even afraid of these numbers, considering the time I ran into Demon Lord's army of nearly 10,000 to get Tia and the others out of there. "Ora ora ora ora, get out of the way, you little bastards." Using the banishment skill, copy and fake, I increased the number of steel swords, and disposed of each sword for every Kuran-Yuri that I cut down. This way, no matter how many enemies there were, I didn't have to worry about depleting my weapons, and I could just cut down everything in sight. "Eat it." Paw fist impact. Next to me, Wafa pressed his dazzlingly shining paw against the Kuran-Yuri, and a shockwave of light radiated out from it, annihilating or frightening the surrounding Kuran-Yuri. It was a feat made possible by the fact that the holy sword inherited by the heroes had been incorporated into his body as the holy fist. Even I, the half-moon that rises above the greenery and conveys to the winds, the voice of the spirits of the 4 kinds and 8 spirits to gather the light and twisted. "Gather around, revolve and blow." In the name of Lunarisha, manifest the Stormbringer. Tia, who finished chanting while we in the vanguard were clearing away the Kuran-Yuris, casted her magic into the sword she hanged at her waist. "Dwell." Sword of the Silver Spirit. "Both of you, avoid it." As we moved to the side in response to the warning from behind, the blade of the powerful wind born from Tia's sword whipped through the writhing Kuran-Yuri herd in front of us with tremendous force. After the winds had calmed down, it became more visible and there was only a former forest left. "Wow, that's terrible," Wafa said, "but all the Kuran-Yuris were obliterated at once." I replied, "Fufafu tilde. How about it? Let's get in there while we still can." Tia said, "Oi, what's with you? Such incredible motivation, huh?" I shouted. I called out to Tia, who was running headfirst without us, the vanguard of the group. Then, Tia caught up with me and smiled happily at me. Of course, at that time, I could only wield my power to escape, leaving my precious friends behind. But now I can use this power to clear a path to protect my friends. I wouldn't be lying if I say this motivates me. Haha, I see. I can still strike. I'm going to blow that whole forest of Kuran-Yuri out of the sky. No, you can't do that. While calmly pouting at Tia, whose motivation was out of control, we ran smoothly into the village. Soon, we saw a wooden fence and discovered a hole in one corner of it. "There's a hole. Let's jump in." "I shall stay here and keep the enemy from coming inside," Wafa said. "Okay, Tia, come with me." We passed Wafa, who stopped and turned around, and Tia and I entered the village through the opened hole. Proceeding through the village while relying on the updated auto-mapping, we saw about 5 Kuranures in front of us and a girl covered in a thin film of light in the center of the Kuranures. Kaya! With a crackling sound, the film of light shattered. Finally, the obstruction was gone, and the Kimonian inside saw a mantis-like Kuranuri about to swing its scythe. I won't let you do it, Tia. Leave it to me. I created a sword in the air using copy and fake, and Tia's spirit magic shot it out. The Kuranurus were stabbed by the steel swords that suddenly flew towards them, and they hurriedly turned their faces toward us. Oi, you can't look away, okay? I instantly closed in and, using my sword, cut off Kuranuri's head. After cutting off all 5 of them, I finally took a breath and looked back behind me. Ied-san. Why? Mimi looked at me with tears in her eyes, her head probably full of fear and questions. But what we needed in this situation was not long-winded explanations. We're here to help. You're safe now. With a smile, I patted Mima's head. Under my gentle touch, Mima, who finally let loose, began to cry loudly. Oops. I'm sorry, Tia, but you're going to have to take over here, in case her voice attracts any other Kuranures. Understood. What about you? That would be, of course, helping my friend clean up afterwards. There was no such thing as a one-sided defeat now. We were going to win, and have a happy ending. T/N. The title might change later as it was quite confusing. Need to confirm with a few people. CH-43. Leaving Tia there, I ran through the village to the fence on the other side. Fortunately, this one was not breached, but the sight of countless Kuranuri biting and scratching at it was not something that could be left unchecked. I wouldn't go so far as to call it a close call, but it's pretty bad. I stabbed them through the gaps in the fence with my sword, but with the swarms of Kuranurus coming in one after the other, it seemed that this was not enough to buy me any more time. It's no good. If I do it little by little I can't make it. Oi, who's there? Here. As I called, I heard a voice coming from the other side of the fence where the Kuranurus were. I proceeded towards the voice, cutting through the sword, only to find a Kimonian man standing there, his entire body covered in blood, holding his sword. Hairless. What are you? I'm a friend of Dobun. I'm here to help, along with the hero Wafa. With Wafa-sama? Come to think of it, I think Dobun-san said there was a hairless guy working with the hero. I see, that's you. That's what I said. Use it. Saying this, I took a recovery potion from my waist bag and tossed it to the man. But the man who received it stared at the vial with a puzzled expression on his face. What the hell is this? It's a recovery potion. Like a nutritional supplement? NHHH. Question mark. The man who gulped down the contents of the vial shouted in surprise. He still looked bloody, but I could hear the vitality returning to his voice. Oi, what kind of thing is this? The pain in my body just vanished? I told you it was a restorative, didn't I? You've heard of it, right? I don't know. Wow, Hairless can make stuff like this on the fly. Amazing. I'll give you 3 bottles of the same one. Can you still stick around? Leave it to me. If you go around along the wall, you'll find the others, so give them this too, if you can. Okay. I gave him 3 more restoratives and left the place, clearing the way with my sword again. By the way, the restoratives I gave him were a small part of the large quantity I couldn't physically give to Alexis when I left him. I didn't know if there were any similar quality potions available in this world, but it was not something I was unwilling to give away in this situation. The expiration date was about a year, so even if I kept it, it would only deteriorate. Hey, anybody home? Over here. Like that, I circled the perimeter of the village, defeating enemies as I went. Of course, I met up with Wafa again on the way, and after confirming that everything was okay, I went further. Hey, I don't see Dobun. What's going on? I asked the man in front of me, a Kimonian with drooping ears, when I had made what seemed like a full circle. I thought I would see him on the way, but I couldn't feel Dobun's presence anywhere. Dobun-san is fighting further away from us. He said that if he took the bait and drew the Kuranuri away, we could manage to protect the village. TCH. So that's the reason. Careless. Sure, if Dobun was to defend the village alone, his range of attack would be limited. Nevertheless, if only one person stood out and continued to attract the enemy, he could greatly reduce the density of Kuranurus attacking the village. I handed the man a recovery potion and immediately activated Akashic Compass to locate Dobun's position. Knowing Dobun was the only one there, I went there at full speed using Hermes Dash, flicking off Kuranurus along the way. Dobun. Whoa, Ed? Dobin shouted hysterically as he jumped into the center of Kuronuri, where the density was clearly different from the other places. The fact that he seemed composed even though he was surrounded by so many of them, made him fit for the hero's role. What are you doing here? I'm here to help. Wafa is on the other side. Tia is in the village. The 9 fighting around us are safe. Ignoring the questions posed to me, I told him just what he needed to know. Then, Dobin bared his fangs and grinned viciously. Good news. You know what to do. Obviously, right? We're friends. I grinned at him too, and no more words were needed. All that was left was to protect each other's backs and cut down the Kuronures around us. Ha! With a howl, Dobin's sword sliced through several Kuronures at once. That powerful blow would be difficult even for me to take head-on without invisible. However, because of its power, the gap created after the attack was also large. A flea-like Kuronuri, large enough to be held in one's arms, jumped at our defenseless backs, but I was not so naive to let it pass through, blow away. Instead of cutting them down, I hit them with the hilt of my sword, and the fleas that were blown away hit the surrounding Kuronures, knocking them out of their positions. I did nothing else, and Dobin, using the opportunity created, used the same wide-range attack he had used before. This was our first time fighting together, and yet we both knew what we had to do. Both of us were first-grade swordsmen, so it was only natural that we could read each other's movements. Dobin, who had the power, would control the situation, and I would fill in the gaps. The impromptu duo turned everything in sight into a storm of tyranny. And finally, the wave came to an end. Is it finished? Probably. I quickly checked our surroundings with my banishing skills while my back was towards Dobin, who was breathing heavily. There were no living Kuronures within a 500-meter radius, which meant that the enemy had been defeated. Phew. Let's go back to the village. Roger. I'll take care of the perimeter. Dobin, now breathing steadily, took the lead, and we headed back to the village. We soon reached the fence, and though it was covered in scars and tatters, there was no sign that it had been breached. What happened to the others? Maybe in the village? Like you, they are probably worried about their family. I guess you could say that. Dobin nodded and went straight into the village. Naturally, I followed him, and a large number of villagers were gathered in what appeared to be the square where Mima had been. Hey, you guys, are you alright? Dobin-san. We're fine. Some people got hurt, but no one died. And the injured were healed by the hairless sister over here. She is amazing. When the villagers moved to the side, I saw Tia, surrounded by children and old people, with a subtly perplexed look on her face. From Tia's point of view, she just used the supplies she had on hand, so I guess she didn't feel like she was very useful. Good work, Tia. Ed, I'm not at all tired. I just used the healing potion I had on hand to treat the wounded. But still, I know Kuronurus didn't have any chance to come in because Wafa and others did a perfect job, but that doesn't change the fact that Tia was protecting the people inside the village. That's right, Tia-san. Thank you. When I called out to Tia, Mima, who was listening by my side, thanked her. With those sparkling eyes, even Tia gave in and smiled broadly. Dobin. Wafa. And then Wafa's voice came from across the crowd. The crowd on that side also parted, and Wafa and Dobin slowly made their way to the center of the crowd where we were. Glad we made it in time. Thank you for saving us. Thank you, Hero Wafa. Dobin extended his arm with his palm facing up, but Wafa grabbed his hand and turned his wrist sideways. Dobin's eyes widened seeing this, and he nervously opened his mouth. Is it okay? Of course it is. Me and Dobin are friends. Oh, and of course, so are Ed and Tia. You are all my friends and comrades. You're a very honest hero. The hands that were shunned in the first round, even knowing that they would give up their lives, were now clasped together as equal friends. Yes, this was the ideal scene I was aiming for. The end point of our journey in this world. The day of separation was near. That was why I was determined to keep the image of the two heroes firmly etched in my mind. T/N: A little form to comment on the translation quality. If possible, please answer it. D. Quality. Ch 44. Chapter 44. Those who join and those who leave. They may have left their hearts, but they have not left their feelings. After fending off the Kuronuri attack, we set about restoring the village quickly. Fortunately, there was no major damage to the buildings, but the wooden fence surrounding the village was so battered and damaged that it could no longer be managed with minor repairs and had to be almost entirely rebuilt. While standing guard around the perimeter, the trees that fell in this battle were carried, processed, and combined to make a fine wooden fence. It was at times like these that I was tempted to use copy and fake, but it was frustrating that I couldn't use that for the fence because the durability would be reduced by a lot. Nevertheless, on the second day, a messenger from this village brought a group of warriors to support us, and with the greatly increased manpower, we were able to set up more robust defenses than before in just 1 week. And today, we were finally leaving. "I'm very grateful for all your help," Dobin said. "Don't worry about it. I'm a hero." "Ed-san, Tia-san." "Thank you very much," Mima said. "Ha ha ha. It's fine." "How many times will you thank us?" "That's right. If you keep thanking us so much, we'll be even more embarrassed." We smiled and replied to Dobin and Mima, who were seeing us off on the behalf of all the villagers. When one was a member of the heroes party, they got used to being thanked on a daily basis, but still, this kind of heartfelt gratitude made me feel embarrassed. However, "Yeah, if you're that grateful, would you mind doing one thing for me as thank you?" "What is it, Ed?" "What do you want?" "I'll do whatever that's possible for me." "Promise?" I grinned at Dobin's words and turned my attention to Wafa. Then, Wafa stepped forward and extended his hand straight toward Dobin. "Dobin, I need you to come with me." What's with the dumb look?" "You said you'd do anything, right?" "No, I told you, but I have to carry this village." "Oh?" Mima kicked the confused Dobin's buttocks as hard as she could. Somehow, I felt my buttocks tightening up too, but it was probably just my imagination, so I didn't care. "I should not care about it." "Matilda, what are you talking about, Anna-chan?" "It's just a coincidence that you were here this time, and you're usually outside the village, so it's the same thing, isn't it? Or are you just going to sit in this village for the rest of your life until Wafa-san defeats the Demon Lord?" "I don't mean to, however. But, because, Dobin, stammering, looked at Wafa, his tail hanging limply. "I'm the guy who was defeated by Wafa, right?" "That's not true." "It's true that I won that match and became a hero, but that was only for the time." "Or is Dobin a gutless crybaby for whom losing one time meant he lost for the rest of his life?" "No, of course not." "Next time we fight, I'm sure I'll win." "Then, victory or defeat is just merely a process. The next match should be a cooperative competition to see who will defeat the Demon Lord." "Wafa, I can't help it if you go that far." With a bitter smile, Dobin didn't take Wafa's outstretched hand, but instead hugged his shoulder. "The handshake will be held off until then. The last one to win gets to put his hand out. How's that working out for you?" "Wafa-fufu, I'm not going to lose." A large Dobin and a petite Wafa were hugging each other's shoulders. At first glance, the scene looked threatening, but the wagging tails and shining smiles were absolutely delightful. "I'm so happy for you, Mima-chan." "Yes, Tia-san." Anna-chan finally has a friend." "Oi, Mima, you're still talking like that." "Even I have a friend or two." "Who?" "That's, those vigilante guys, and I think those guys are scared of you and respect you out of fear, Anna-chan." "However, aren't they a bit different from friends?" "Oh, that's right, Ed. See, even this guy's a friend of mine." "Right?" "Me? Well, yes, but good for you, Anna-chan. You now have 2 friends." Don't give me that look." "I'm so happy for you, Ed. You've made a friend." Tia said. Why are you dragging me into this mess?" "Stop, Tia. Don't look at me like that." We laughed, joked around, said goodbye to each other, and then we set out on our journey. The power of Dobin, the newest addition to the team, was unparalleled. After that, we overpowered the Kuronuri attacks that began to occur in various places and gathered information about the Demon Lord. Then, finally, the time came. From this point forward, only Kimonians are allowed to enter this sacred place. Wafa said. "I see. Then that's it for me and Tia." At first glance, it appeared to be just an entrance to a cave, but beyond that, there was a mysterious space where something was said to exist that was necessary to enhance the power of the hero and defeat the Demon Lord. But I didn't know what was beyond that. It was the same in the first round, and now it was the second round, and again, this was our final stop. Wafa, Can't you do something about it? There's no way after coming this far we can discard these guys. Dobin asked. I know what you mean, and I feel the same way. But since we don't know how long this ordeal will take, we can't ask Ed and his companion to wait forever. Wafa said. Then why don't we party again when the ordeal is over? How about it, Ed? I'll send a message to the hunting shack when we're done, and then he can. Dobin said. Dobin was trying his best to get us to stay, but I quietly shook my head. Sorry, Dobin. It was fine with you and Wafa, but we humans can't stay in this country for long by ourselves. We are unwanted guests after all. Considering you two's strength, you wouldn't have to deal with all that. Wafa, with your title of the hero. Or no, go to my village. Mima is there, she'll welcome you with open arms. If we settle down in the wrong place, we may be framed for massacring the villagers, and it may be used as an excuse for war. We can't involve your sister in that. No way. That's of course. I don't think all Chemonians hate people that much, or that they are all bad people. But it's also true that there are some extremists, and there are limits to what individuals can do to deal with them. Well, we'll just sneak back to the human kingdom and look forward to the good news of your defeat of the Demon Lord. Damn it. I wryly shrugged my shoulders, and Dobin kicked the ground as hard as he could. I have to admit, before I met you guys, I too had a little discrimination against hairless in my heart. So, I can't deny what you're saying. Damn it. What the hell is this? I'm just a little guy who can't even guarantee a safe place for his friends. It's not Dobin's fault. It's just that a mere traveler can't do anything about the interspecies problems that have built up over the years. But yes. I cut him off and looked up at the sky. The sky seen through the trees was clear and blue, and the color must have looked the same to both humans and Chemonians. If you guys defeat the Demon Lord and become famous, just remember once in a while that there are others like us. Maybe then the barrier between humans and Chemonians will break a little. I understand. In the name of Wafa, the hero of Chemonian, I swear to you that I will never forget Ed and Tia. Me neither. I ain't got no title to swear by, but I wouldn't forget the face of a friend. That's good enough. Then Wafa, and there, Tia, who had been staying quiet all this time, suddenly jumped onto Wafa. It was a pleasure traveling with you. Take care. Thank you, Tia. Now, you can stroke me around a little bit, okay? Foo-foo. Wafa jokingly said. Tia chuckled and squeezed his arms. And like that, they hugged for about 10 seconds, and then Dobin was next. And Dobin, be good to your sister. I don't need you to tell me that. But thanks. Yeah. That's why, Wafa, we would like a clean farewell. I told Wafa, making sure that Tia, who had left Dobin, was back beside me. Then, Wafa's tail wagged once and his round eyes looked straight at me. Ed and Tia, you're both removed from the party. Thank you for your help. Thank you. Good luck, you two. I gripped the offered hand and shook it firmly, and Wafa and Dobin disappeared into the cave without looking back. We looked away, looked at each other and nodded, and Tia and I also firmly held hands. And soon our existence was completely banished from this world. Ch 45. Chapter 45. I knew we'd succeed, but I didn't expect we'd overdo it. Phew. We made it safely this time. After a light feeling of intoxication, we returned to the as usual and checked my neck, shoulders and other parts of my body as I was accustomed to. Of course the body was back to normal this time, too. I would be impressed if I had spent more than a few decades and got younger. But 6 months or a year since I was 20 years old, I could only feel disappointed over the loss of my muscle strength and stamina. Tia, are you okay? Why yeah, I'm fine. If you feel something wrong with your body, just tell me, okay? Never mind, I can't help you even if you tell me. I'm really fine. Unlike Ed, in my case, even going back 10 years doesn't change things that much. I see. As expected, being over 100 years old is different. Oh, Tia's kick bursted mercilessly into my ass. Why? An elf and 100 years old is not old or anything? Exclamation mark. Whatever. Ed no Barker. I don't get it. I rubbed my bottom with tears in my eyes, not knowing why she was angry. It was really unreasonable, but, well, Tia seemed to be feeling a little better, so I guess it was okay. So, how was it? Your first time in another world? Yeah, it was a lot more normal than I imagined it would be. But a lot more fun and happy and a little sad. I see. Ed is amazing. You've done this 100 times, haven't you? I guess. Well, you get used to it. There are good encounters and bad encounters, fun times and hard times. There were worlds where I wanted to stay there forever, and there were worlds where I just wanted to go home right now. If there is anything I can say from my experience, it is to enjoy with an open mind. We are just strangers to any world who come out of nowhere and stay only for a short time. We should enjoy a short time as strangers. I think it's best to spend as much time as you can so you can remember, that world was fun, don't you agree? I see. I guess. I see. Tia smiled and replied to me as I said it carefree. It looked like she was pretending to smile, but that was because of the wonderful memories of Wafa and his friends. If that was the case, we should be happy. But I wonder what happened to Wafa and others after that. Even if it's a good memory, I'm still concerned about it. That's all right. Watch me. I turned around and looked at the table and there it was, a flickering crystal ball. If it was the same as last time, then if I touched it, that book would. What was it? Anyway, that thing should fall down. Then, that was exactly why I carefully reached to the crystal ball and here it comes. I quickly turned my body around, perfectly anticipating God's behavior. But no matter how long I waited, what I was looking for didn't fall, and my head remained unharmed. What are you doing, Ed? Huh? No. There should be a book on my head. Hey Ed, there's a book. Puzzled, I looked towards where Tia's voice was, and saw a book on the table with the title, Records of the Hero's Story. Why? Wasn't it supposed to fall on my head? I mean, if it was okay like this, why had it been raining on my head all this time? Were you harassing me? Was that it? You were harassing me? Result book. What's this? Hey, Ed, can I read this? Yeah, go ahead. Feeling something that I couldn't quite put my finger on, I read the heavily leather-bound book with Tia. Unlike with Alexis, Wafa's description before we met was less, and after that, we skimmed it because we and Wafa were working together until we reached halfway through the book. I read with immense concentration from the part where we parted ways at the cave, and when the words final chapter appeared, I gulped and read each word letter by letter without pausing. The 002ND World, Records of the Hero's Story, Final Chapter, The Kingdom of Edoshia. Thus, the Demon Lord was defeated by the hero Wafa and the hero Doban, and the threat of the Kuranuri slowly decreased from the world. With the extra military power and vast lands of the Demon Lord's domain, as well as the power of the heroes who defeated the Demon Lord, some Chemonians started a movement saying, we should take this opportunity to defeat the humans and unify the world with the power of Chemonians. But Wafa the hero responded, I was able to defeat the Demon Lord because I had an irreplaceable human friend. I will never forget that debt of gratitude and the love of my friends forever. The hero Doban made a similar statement, and the momentum of the war quickly faded away. Furthermore, when a Chemonian hero said that he recognized the existence of humans, a movement was born for both sides to recognize each other's existence, and with the support of the people's will, the world's first country where humans and Chemonians coexisted, Edoshia, was established in the vast territory of the Demon Lord. Wafa, the hero who became the first king of Edoshia, and Doban, who became the general, served as his right-hand man. Although the two men who devoted their lives to the reconciliation of the two races were never reunited with their friends, their pure feelings were still engraved in this country where humans and Chemonians laughed together. Wow, that's amazing. I knew he would be able to defeat the Demon Lord, but I didn't expect him to become a king. Hey, Ed, the name of this country is. Don't say it. Don't even think about it. I was glad Wafa and his friends felt the same way as we did. But to have our name used in the name of their country was just something. What do you want me to do? No, it didn't mean I was not happy, okay? I felt honored, and I knew those guys did their best. There were many things I thought about, like how they remembered our promise. But the name of the country was something. Or rather, if we had stayed in that world, we'd be like a major figure in the country, wouldn't we? I said. Given the country's origins and political standing, Wafa and Ed would have been joint kings. Fufu. How about you, Ed? Too bad you didn't get to be king. Don't be silly, I don't want to be king, even if they ask me. A king of a newly emerging country that kept getting stared at by two major powers would melt my stomach in seconds. You know, I could never choose to give up my freedom in exchange for a little luxury and to live together with people. Well, that was why I had a lot of respect for Wafa and Doburn, who apparently chose to do it and did it. If I had been there, I would have wanted to help, but as far as I could tell from reading this, everything was already past. It was just a few moments ago for us, but behind that door, decades have already passed. Tia said. Well, it looks like it. But isn't that usual for a long-lived species like Tia? I don't think it's to that extent. But yeah, sometimes 10 years or so pass by before I realize it. I think that's pretty much the same thing. Well, okay. Here, Tia. I called out Tia and closed the book and tucked it away in the bookshelf. The bookshelf with 2 books lined up was still a bit empty, but that was why I was determined to line up the best history on all of these books. Then, let's move on to the next world. Wait, let's see. Yeah. As I got up from my seat, Tia hurriedly touched the crystal ball and then followed me. So, what world is next? What was it like? I mean, Tia, did you get any skills again? Foo-fa-foo, it's a secret. I'll tell you later. What? Now I'm curious. Tell me now. No, it would be a shame to end all the fun all at once. Come on, let's go. The new world is calling us. Yeah, let's get going. Holding Tia's hand tightly, I opened the newly emerged 003 door. The first step we took in search of new encounters and new adventures disappeared into the light once again. T/N. Give me 2-3 days to prepare for the third world. Hope you all are enjoying it so far. CH46. Chapter 46. The ruffian who showed up. I won't say who he is. World transfer complete. Oh, the 003RD world. We emerged in a small, dark, narrow, too tight. What on earth is this? What is this place? Ed, I'm in pain here. Idiot. Don't move, Tia. I'm in severe pain, too. I don't know anything. Matilda. UK. We were tightly packed in a mysterious enclosed space, with our small bodies folded up. Yeah. What the hell? I didn't experience anything like this during my first round. GGH. Yeah. Hey, Tia, calm down first. If this is how it is supposed to be, I'm going to blow it away with my magic. Bind the wind. Wait. Stop it, Tia. It's alright. I felt a sharp pain in my head and at the same time I remembered where I was, and I hurried to stop Tia. If she used a big magic spell here, we would surely be thrown into the sea. However, my body was also not free. I was supposed to come alone, but when 2 people were crammed into a tight space like this, no matter how petite Tia was, there was no way there would be any gap. In the name of Lunarisha, stop. Can you really please stop, Tia-san? Is this it? Oi, come out obediently, you stowaways. Stormbringer. The lid of the closed box was opened, and Tia's spirit magic exploded in the face of the old man who peeked in. Hey, are these the stowaways? Yes, Nei-san. It's not Nei-san, it's Captain. Sorry, and Captain. Tia and I are forced to sit upright in the center of the large deck. Tia and I were forced to sit on the floor in the center of the large deck. Our hands were tied, our weapons were taken, and we were surrounded by about 20 men and it was a desperate situation. And in front of us, another old man was being slapped on the head by a beautiful woman in gorgeous, stylish clothes. I knew that the captain of the ship was a red-headed woman who looked to be in her 30s, with ample breasts and buttocks that were on the verge of bursting. Well, that's all right. You both, what are your names? The woman asked. I'm Ed. I'm Lunarisha. I'm sorry for being so violent out of the blue. I don't mind. When you see our men's ugly faces, it's natural to want to scream. That's cruel, Nei-san. I told you to call me Captain. Goa. The captain threw a knife. The handle part of course, but it struck the protesting man directly in the forehead. Wow, that sounded rather nasty. Looked painful. So, what kind of a stupid idea you had for you to stow away on my ship? If things go wrong, I'll just throw you overboard. The captain of the ship opened her hands and showed them to us. Yes, we were in the middle of the open sea, with no land in sight. If so, this ship was the same as a small country, and I spoke politely to the captain, who believed she held our life and death in her hands. First of all, I apologize for our rudeness in coming on board your ship without your permission, but we have our own circumstances. Would you be willing to let us stay on the ship for 6 months? I said. Are you deaf? I'm asking you about your situation. Captain asked. I am sorry, but we cannot answer that question. If we tell you that, you'll be involved in our affairs, too. I replied. Who? Is that what you're saying? You want me to let a guy who is obviously in trouble and has come on board without permission, without asking why, stay on this ship? Do you think I'm stupid? The captain lady, who was looking down at us from above, glared at me with penetrating and chilling eyes. The intimidation I felt was proof that this woman had indeed earned her captain's position with her abilities. But there was not enough murderous intent and madness in her eyes to scare me. By no means. Because I put strength into my arms and cut the rope that bound me. Of course, this was impossible with my brute strength, and this was because Tia had secretly cut a slit in the rope with spirit magic. When I regained my freedom to do so, I stood up on the spot and clenched my fists. I wasn't that good with this, but it was just enough to face them. With my fist, I will prove my usefulness to you. The captain lady shuddered, looking at my vicious smile. The look of amusement on her face at the smell of violence, as I expected, but that was okay for now. Ha, you sure are talking big. Hey, you guys, let's see if that boy is a man of his word. The captain commanded. Yes, Captain. At the captain's words, 3 old guys surrounded me first, but their faces had a loose grin and none of them had drawn their weapons. In other words, I was being looked down upon. Hey, lad, I'll baptize you to be a man of the sea. Before the old man could finish his words, my fist slammed into his stomach. I had activated Hermes Dash for a split second, and no one was able to notice my movement. Why you? What? The surprised old man placed his hand on the sword at his waist, but it was too late. Before he could pull it out, I rushed in and hit him again with the Hermes Dash, which caused another old man to roll on the floor. Damn it. Hey, somebody, join me. I'll chop you up and feed you to the fishes. At the sound of a panicked third man's voice, the rest of the men surrounded me like prey and pounced on me. But still, it wasn't enough. Danger for me. What? One by one, men were sunk by my fists. Their Hermes Dash could only move in a straight line, but it was impossible to stop my advance for those who were not calm enough to notice this and who did not have the minimum ability to cope with the speed. What the hell is going on? Somebody do something about this guy. Oh, oi, brat, stop. Do you not care what happens to this woman? Hearing this voice from behind me, I turned around to see a dull, shiny knife pressed against Tia's neck. It was a common way. Oi, that's a bit too much, don't you think? I said. What the hell are you talking about? It's too late for that. Nope, not you. Denying the man's misunderstanding, I chuckled and turned to my partner, who was sitting on the ground with her head facing down. The chanting, which could be detected by the movement of her mouth, was more than a little powerful. Manifest, Vortex Aura. Instantly, a huge tornado appeared around Tia, easily blowing away the man who was holding a knife against her. The men on deck were in an uproar at the sudden appearance of the tornado, which lasted less than a second, and Tia smiled smugly when she saw it. Tilda. How's that? Sorry, but I'm not a woman who needs to be protected, okay? Glad to see that you were careful. I was afraid you'd get serious and cut the ship in half. I would never do something like that. What does Ed think I am? You're the same tomboy who didn't listen to me earlier when I told her to wait and instead fired off a spell, right? That's why I'm sorry, I said while grinning at her, and Tia turned away from me while twitching her ears. Nonetheless, it would be pitiful to tease her too much, so I turned to the captain again and gave her a beautiful bow, like an aristocrat. Do you like it? Did I meet the captain's expectations? I see. Well, if you are that strong, you certainly have your uses, even if it brings trouble. Alright. Listen up, you guys. From today on, these two are your friends, newcomers. Anybody who has a problem with that, come forward. The captain's words were loudly proclaimed, and no one openly objected. Even if there were, it would only increase the number of people rolling on the floor. Of course. Yoshi. Well then, I'll tell you my name again. I am the captain of this ship, Rebecca. Let me welcome you all aboard the pirate ship Scarlet. Thank you, Captain. Thank a pirate ship. As I grabbed Rebecca's extended hand gripping, Tia's hysterical voice seeped into the wide blue sky. T/N, I accidentally read the wrong chapter for Omcom. Except 2 chapters tomorrow. CH 47. The captain was so pleased with us that we were supposed to go straight to work for her on the pirate ship Scarlet. But how did we get into this? Tia asked. She sure is in a good mood. I said. I was currently next to Captain Rebecca in her chair, holding and waving an awfully big leaf and blowing a cool breeze. On the other side of the chair, Tia was doing the same thing, and her face was naturally bewildered as well. Captain, is this? I asked. Well, I've heard that the royalties do this kind of thing. So, I thought I'd give it a shot, at least once. You've got some refined taste. I said. What, you don't like it? Rebecca stared at me, and I responded with a vague smile. That's not what I meant, but I didn't think I'd be made to do this. So, for my part, I was ready to polish up the deck to the point where my feet would slip, or secretly indulge my self-satisfaction by peeling vegetables in long, thin strips without shredding them. So I felt confused by this treatment. No, really, what's going on? I assumed the difference would be just enough to be treated like a guest because we showed our ability, but I didn't see the point of making us fan a leaf, right? Well, I was just trying to do something that just came to my mind. You wouldn't want the same thing to happen to you as you did to the men you defeated, would you? That's true. Usually only beautiful men and women who were made to serve like this. I couldn't imagine being fanned by an old man who was proud of his skills with his sweat flying all over. I could already smell the stench, and in every sense of the word, it seemed like a bad idea. I absolutely hate it. Tia said. Tia, perhaps thinking of such a scene, frowned openly and her ears drooped down. Rebecca seemed to be laughing happily when she saw our faces. But after she finished laughing and drank a glass of wine, she took a breath and then slowly started talking to me. So? What's the reason you geese rolled up here? Rebecca asked. No, like I said, it's just you and me now, right? If I pretend I didn't hear it, that's the end of the story. Is it still not enough to hide it? Is that why you especially did this? Well, I won't deny that I've always wanted to try it. I see. You are leading a band of ruffians. If they go this far and don't say anything, there's a good chance they'll be kicked out of the Stones. Well then, between you and me, I don't mean to say this, but don't you think Tia is quite an attractive woman? I said. Ed, what's with you all of a sudden? Yeah, not sexy, but she is surely beautiful like a work of art. In addition, never mind, I'm not going to tell you this one. Rebecca said. Even the captain? Or rather, what is it that you don't want to tell me? Yes. We'll get to that later. I told her. Ed? I restrained Tia, who had a perfect blend of embarrassment, upset, and anger on her face, with my hand, and continued talking to Rebecca. I was still being slapped on the back, but I didn't care about that. It hurts. I get it. I'll tell you later. Matilda. Definitely. Good grief. Anyway. She caught the eye of a rather nasty bigwig. The trouble with people with power is that you can't solve their problems by punching them in the face. However, we are not going to leave ourselves open to being attacked. I've been getting a lot of help laying the groundwork through my contacts, but if Tia is taken into custody before we get the results, there's nothing we'd be able to do, so we've taken refuge here. I said. I see. So, that's why you are on my boat. It is true that no one will come after you on the sea. And we, who have been outlaws from the beginning, cannot be suppressed by public authority. But that is only on the premise that I will not sell you. We are pirates. Didn't you think we'd just drop everything and jump at the small change in front of us, rather than take the risk and try to make a big profit? We'll see about that when the time comes. I gave up and resigned myself to my luck. Once there, I cut off my words, swapped the big leaf into one hand, and with my free hand, clenched my fist and thrust it forward. I'm just going to knock you out and take this whole ship. Rebecca gave me a blank look as I said this with a smirk on my face. But then, just as quickly, she started laughing out loud, clutching her stomach. Good. It's nice to be able to let your youth take over and have a big mouth. But if you have that confidence, why didn't you do it from the beginning? It's because it's easier this way. I can't do anything on a ship if I don't have the skills to handle it. If there is nothing else I can do, I will do it, but if not, it is much easier to follow the captain and polish the deck. You really have a calculating way of speaking. You are a brat with a big mouth but strangely realistic and not knowing what to do. That's all right. As I said before, as long as you don't give us any trouble, we'll keep you on the ship, so don't worry. You'll still have to do work, though. Leave it to me, Captain. I'll work for you with great enthusiasm. Rebecca was in a good mood, and I waved the big leaf in her direction. We chatted for a while after that, and I decided to ask her something that had been bothering me for a while. By the way, Captain, do you know the story of the hero and the demon lord? What is it, all of a sudden? When you say hero and the demon lord, are you talking about the demon lord of the mist and the hero of the light? The demon lord of the mist? What is that? Don't tell me you've never heard of it. It's a famous fairy tale, you know? No, that's probably only in this area. You don't hear about it at all when you go to the inland areas. I didn't even hear about it until I came here. Before Tia could blurt it out, I hurried to follow up. Then Rebecca, who had been surprised for a moment, nodded and agreed with me. Really? Well, it's certainly about the ocean. I will tell you then. At the end of the sea in this world, there's a demon lord who creates fog, and the fog is spreading a little bit every year, and if it continues at this rate, the world will eventually be swallowed up by it. The hero is the one who clears away the fog. The rough plot of the story is that the hero uses a sword called the Sword of Light to clear the fog, defeat the demon lord, and bring peace to the world. So that means the demon lord is still creating fog in the world? I asked. What? Don't be silly. That's a fairy tale, right? It's true that if you go all the way across the ocean, there are areas where the fog is so thick that you can't go on, but it's not unusual to have fog on the ocean. So, both the hero and the demon lord exist only in fairy tales? I asked. If you think about it, that's what common sense tells you. Rebecca replied. I see. In other words, the purpose of this trip is to search for it, Tia said. Did you say something? No, nothing, Tia said. Rebecca tilted her head lightly at Tia's little murmur, but fortunately she didn't ask anything more. We just kept fanning her with the big leaf until Rebecca got bored. And that night. Now then, why don't we get you to tell us a little bit about it? For some reason, I was being asked that question in close proximity to Tia on a bed that was too cramped for me to even sleep alone. Ch 48. Chapter 48. A man and a woman alone in a small bed. Sometimes nothing happens. Even when I was alone, I was cramped in the bottom of the triple bunk bed. It was the only free private place on this pirate ship except for the lavatory. Tia was snuggled up to me. Tia-san, isn't this a little too close? It can't be helped. This place is too small. There's nowhere else to talk. Well, yeah, alright. But there was no way that Taruki, who had just arrived today, would be assigned a private room. This room was a 6-person room since there was another triple bunk bed installed on the opposite wall. Although I knew which places the people on this ship rarely visited, it was not impossible to block out the sound using Tia's spirit magic. However, since we couldn't afford to be kicked out of the ship, we wanted to avoid behavior that may raise suspicions as much as possible. It's just that, your voice. That's okay. I've got a better way. Tia smiled at my words and held my hand for some reason. What in the world? How about this? Can you hear me? Whoa, hey, Ed, you're talking too loud. Oh, my bad. I was taken aback by the voice that suddenly appeared in my head. I mean, wouldn't you be freaked out if you suddenly heard someone's voice inside your head? I mean, is it a banishment skill, by any chance? I asked. You call it a banishment skill? This is an ability I was given before I came to this world, Tia replied. That's just what I call it. But, yeah, that's very convenient. Bootilda. You don't seem too surprised. The silent Tia pouted and looked dissatisfied, but I was holding in my astonishment. There was a technique of communicating through finger movements, which of course could be seen by the enemy. The ability to communicate perfectly in complete silence was a far higher value than one could ever imagine. What are the conditions to use it? Does it consume anything? The only condition for the voice to be heard is that a part of the body should be in contact with me. But it can't be through clothes. It has to be skin-to-skin contact. I don't feel any consumption. And there doesn't seem to be any sort of time limit. Oh, by the way, this banishment skill you call it? Its name is missing talk. I see. This is a very specific skill again. I know, right? So, You must tell me the story now. While I was grimacing at the invisible hand of God, Tia pleaded to me with her eyes wide open. The room was almost pitch black without a single light, perhaps to save money, but that was why Tia's eyes seemed to sparkle with curiosity with a bit of light in them. I'm not going to hide it, I'll explain it to you. But where should I start? Pirates. Pirates. That's because we're on a pirate ship now, of course. Really? But there's nothing more I can say to explain it, you know? I don't know why these guys are pirates, either. The only thing I can tell you is that Rebecca, the captain, is probably a hero. A hero? Eh? But didn't you say earlier that the hero only exists in fairy tales? Yeah. I don't really understand that either. Perhaps Rebecca herself was not aware that she was a hero. Her behavior was not particularly like a hero. Then why did I think she was a hero? Because the moment I was kicked out of this ship, the condition for returning to the White World was fulfilled. During the first round in the Dream World, I didn't think Rebecca was a hero, so I did menial work on the ship and gathered information about Hero at every port where we stopped. But no matter where I went, the existence of the hero was only a fairy tale, and I couldn't get any concrete information. I wasn't able to make any progress, so I got off the ship after about 8 months, and then I was able to return to the White World after fulfilling the condition. If I was able to return, then that meant I was expelled from the hero's party, and I had fulfilled that condition the moment you got off the ship. So, I agree. Given the circumstances, I'd say the captain is the hero. There's still the possibility that any of the sailors on this ship could be a hero, but that's a bit of a long shot. After spending 8 months on a small ship, one could at least understand each of the other's personalities. However, for better or worse, the sailors aboard this ship were all ordinary scoundrels, and none of them looked like a hero. But now, if I looked at their growth using rainbow glasses, the one with the most potential could develop into a hero. Ah, damn it. I should have looked earlier. Look what? Oh, no. There's a banishment skill that can determine a subject's talents, or rather, how they can grow in the future. Hey Tia, does this ability convey thoughts to the other person you're not consciously trying to convey to? I'm sorry, I don't know those details yet. It's alright. My bad. There was no way even for me to fully grasp the effects of the banishment skill that I had just acquired and used for the first time. I lowered my head reflexively, and Tia's forehead, which was also moved down, thumped against my forehead. Oh, I exclaimed. Oh? What? Foo-foo. What's so funny? I asked Tia while rubbing my forehead. She had tears in her eyes and a small smile on her face. Because it's so funny that we tried to lower our heads at the same time. Oh, yes, I totally forgot to ask, what was it that the captain didn't tell me back then? I've been wondering about it ever since. Ugh. You really want to hear this? It's not a good story, you know? I frowned, and Tia flinched. But after a few moments of hesitation, she came close enough to breathe on my face and reiterated her request. Yes, I want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, but I feel like I won't be able to sleep if I don't. Then I'll tell you. Part of Tia's charm is her thin breasts and hips and girlish. Ouch. It hurts. Matilda. I almost gagged when she slapped my chest relatively hard. However, since I promised to explain, I had to make sure I finished the story. The rest is the hobby of causing pain and destroying what is beautiful and innocent. It's one thing to have a good appearance, but I can't say that there aren't people with a warped nature who want to see Tia, with her bright personality, screaming and crying. I said I could think of a few such heartless fiends, though they were not the ones I would encounter in this world. That world was still yet to come, but I would have to be prepared for that when we reached the Ark. Sure. There are a very few people like that, and for some reason, they are all rich or powerful, Tia said. Well, I guess only the rich ones can afford to keep people for their own pleasure. Hey, Ed, if I'll kill them, I assured Tia, who sounded anxious. With my voice, or rather a thought. Without letting her finish. Whatever the circumstances, sacrificing Tia is not an option for me. If I was going to choose that, then I wouldn't be here in the first place. I would never believe those who spout shit like life was of equal value. But what if you need to do it to get back to your world? I don't give a shit. I'm here to bust those things on my second round of Dream World after surviving through it for the first time. But, well, yeah, if I can't get home, then when that time comes, what then? I'll live in that world for the rest of my life happily. You'll be with me, won't you? Naturally. I'm Urani-chan. Tia smiled as she tapped my forehead with her index finger. She continued to squirm closer and buried her face in my chest. I couldn't hear Tia's voice anymore and, no, 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 don't fall asleep. Go back to your own bed. It's kind of a hassle, and it's okay to sleep together sometimes. You know, we used to sleep in the same tent when we were traveling with Alexis and the others. That's true, but that's not what I'm talking about. Come on, get out. Matilda. As Tia walked away from the bed with her cheeks puffed out in frustration, I finally stretched out my arms and legs with a feeling of freedom. It was still small, but I would be able to sleep normally. Good grief, you really are a lively young lady. I quietly closed my eyes on the bed, where Tia's warmth remained. I was a little uncomfortable to hear the strange sniffling coming from the bed above me, but my consciousness quickly faded into darkness. And my first night in this world ended with a peaceful sleep. T/N, anyone willing to be an editor for this novel? Need extra pair of eyes to look over it and edit the errors. If willing, look for me in Folksaholic Discord, name : Main. Hope you enjoy this chapter 2, DCH 49. Chapter 49. The first job to kill boredom is to beat up a gang of romantically trained pirates. It had been a while since we joined the pirate crew. Tia sighed heavily next to me as I continued to peel the vegetables with my practiced hand. What's the matter, Tia? Your hands are still. Hey, Ed, why are we doing this? Why? Because we're the lowest ranking rookie, right? At least it's more like a job than fanning the captain with a big leaf. Yes, but not that. We've been doing nothing but chores like cleaning boats and peeling vegetables ever since. Can't we do something more? Like you did before in the first round? Even if you say that. I didn't understand why Tia looked so grumpy. But then again, we were in the middle of a wide ocean. Even if we were to push the job to someone else and try to get out of here, there was no place to escape to. Rather, because I was assigned to do chores, I didn't have free time. If we had been treated as guests and not required to do anything, I might have started counting the grains of ship's wood. To be honest, this is how it's going to be for most of the time this time. We're supposed to make a port call once every month or two, but the rest of the time we'd be on the ship. It's different from what I imagined. Pirates are supposed to be more like, you know, awesome adventures and stuff, right? She asked. There may be some who do, but even then they mostly stay on the ship. If we were attacked by magic beasts as often as when we walk on the ground, a wooden ship would sink in no time, wouldn't it? I know, but... Tia peeled vegetables at high speed, trying to contain her uncontrollable anger. That's a lot. However, if she was looking for a change of pace, then we could do it on the ship. I see a ship. Suddenly, from far above deck, a loud voice echoed through the galley, which could be heard even in this secluded area. At the same time, the sound of thunderous footsteps were heard throughout the ship, and Tia's long ears began to twitch. What? A ship? Tia exclaimed. Huh? Isn't that too early? I said. Hey Ed, what's this? Or rather, don't we have to go too? That's right. Let's go, Tia. I tossed the vegetables in my hand into a nearby basket and started running with Tia's hand in tow. The deck was already swarming with the sailors, and the captain, Rebecca, was standing on the higher deck. Report. Rebecca said. Nasan. There is a ship ahead. 500 meters to the east-southeast. 2 ships total. It looks like one of them is under attack. I told you to call me captain. The flag? It's the Makuzu company that's being attacked. And the one that's attacking. Wow, that's Baroque. The Baroque Theater Company? That's good. Full speed ahead. We're going to make some money. Oh. Rebecca's command caused all the sailors to move in unison. Naturally, it was me and Tia who stayed where we were without moving. The reason was that we, as newcomers, had neither the skill nor the right to operate the ship, and since we couldn't abandon the ship, we always wore the armor that we received back on the first day. Hey Ed, by earning money, do you mean they're going to start working as a pirate now? Tia asked. Yes. Rejoice, Tia, you can move your body. Huh? I said. Tia. For some reason, Tia's complexion was not good, even though she was finally free from the cramped work. When I called out to her, Tia replied in a low voice, her jade green eyes conflicted. A pirate's job is to attack innocent people, take their money and goods, and kill them, isn't it? I know I have to do it considering my position, but still. Ah, right. Tia doesn't know. Don't know what? Foo-fa-foo, you'll find out soon enough, I said. I grinned at Tia, who asked anxiously. In the meantime, the ship kept on going and soon reached the flank of the two ships. A ship bearing a black flag with a crest that looked like a skull stuck in a fish hook was constantly throwing hooked rope in an attempt to board, while a ship bearing a flag with a dragon crest with a gold coin added was desperately resisting. It looks like we made it just in time. Makasu Company. How much for the cargo and your life? Rebecca shouted and asked. No way, a pirate eater? 440. No. 500. A well-dressed man on a merchant ship answered Rebecca's call from the deck by gesturing with his hands. The expression on his face was a mixture of bitterness and relief, but it seemed that the price he came up with was to Rebecca's liking. Good price. We have a deal. The enemy is Baroque. Turn around and get on him, Rebecca commanded. Hi. Accompanying her command, a reasonably big ship glided on the sea like a living creature and turned around to the opposite side of the merchant vessel, and threw a grappling rope to the enemy ship. The enemy, then, could not afford to be bothered with a merchant ship of inferior strength, and pirates in matching red and white stripes gathered on the port side of the ship. Wow, look at them, Ed. They're all wearing the same clothes. Tia said. Yes, but don't be surprised just yet, okay? I told her. What more is there? Tia asked. Yes, that's right. Look. Here he comes. As I shifted my gaze from Tia to the enemy ship, whose eyes were sparkling with excitement, I saw a middle-aged man with a beard like an anchor, dressed in a fancy pirate outfit as if he were an actor or something, appearing in the most noticeable place on the deck. That alone was quite impressive, but the most striking thing about him was his left hand. You, Rebecca, you're in my way again, the middle-aged man said arrogantly. Yo, Pierre. Isn't it very admirable of you to bring me another profitable scheme? Shut up. Today's the day I'm going to shove mine up your big ass and make you squeal. Ha. You should at least pull your dagger out of its sheath before you say something like that. Hey, Ed, look at that, Tia said. The cursing with such vulgar content was very pirate-like and made me feel excited, but then Tia got excited and pulled my sleeve, pointing at the captain of the other side and shouting. Hands. That man's hand. It's a hook, Tia said. The other captain's. Pierre's left hand had a metal hook that was visible through the long sleeves of his black coat. The other captain's left hand has a metal hook on the part of the long sleeve of his black coat that can be seen. Amazing. I thought people with hooked hands only existed in stories, Tia exclaimed. Well, it would be terribly inconvenient to use your hands as hooks under normal circumstances. I told her. In some parts of the world, there existed prosthetic hands that were superior to flesh hands, but of course, metal hooks were not one of them. If such a thing were attached, it would be so cumbersome that it was obvious that even daily life would be difficult for the individual. I know, but then why is he using it? Tia asked. That's what I call romance, I replied. Romance is deep. Tia placed her hand on her chin and began to think about what I had said. Meanwhile, the two ships were closing the distance between them, and soon, with a bang, their hulls collided with each other. Now, let the battle begin. Let's go get M, Rebecca commanded. You guys, today's the day, beat them to death, Pierre commanded. At each captain's words, wild cries echoed through the ships. Pirates in matching clothes and captains with idiotic obsessions. The first battle with the enemy, which could truly be called a theatrical troupe, was thus initiated. Footnotes. An intermediate port where ships customarily stop for supplies, repairs, or transshipment of cargo. Ch. 50. Chapter 50. No matter how vicious the enemy is, there are moments when you can't help but feel sorry for them, as both captains commanded. The two ships collided against each other as they came close to each other. At the same time, sailors from both sides started fighting at once with their prey in hand, and I stopped briefly to call out to Tia, who was standing next to me. Tia, kill as little as possible. Stun them or knock them into the sea. Fine, but why? Since the enemy were pirates, Tia already had no hesitation in fighting. That was why she was tilting her head, but it would be a little inconvenient to annihilate them with her full power. It's not the right time for us to kill them. Well, if you want to spend the rest of your life just peeling vegetables, you can kill them. Understood? I'll go easy on them with all my power. Tia said. I saw Tia, with a wonderfully nice smile on her face, begin chanting her magic, and I immediately stepped towards the enemy. 2. The enemy had 60 men against our 40. We were at a slight disadvantage in terms of numbers, but the quality was better. And now there was me. Gua. With my sword still in its scabbard, I striked the pirate in front of me. Even if the pirate was not slashed, a blow to the side of the stomach with an iron rod would of course not go unnoticed, and the pirate collapsed on the spot due to the extreme pain, causing the contents of his stomach to regurgitate. Oops. They outnumbered me. Another guy nearby immediately slashed at me, but I evaded his attack and knocked his sword away with my own sword. I hit him in the back of the head, and the poor pirate fell to the floor, foaming at the mouth. If I left him there, he might be trampled to death, but I had no intention of taking care of him to that extent. In the name of Lunarisha, gust pressure. And there, Tia's magics burst forth at the right time. The force of the compressed wind blew away the enemies in front of me like a joke, and with nothing in my way, I ran through the pathway at full speed. Hey, you sure are a very cheery brat. I've never seen you before. Are you new here? Pierre asked. I arrived in front of the enemy captain. Pierre smiled wickedly, and I smiled back at him. You can say that. I've been here less than a month, and I'm a newbie. Okay, I see. That's unfortunate. Anyhow, you just joined and now you are going to be killed by me, Pierre declared arrogantly. Pierre thrusted the curved sword he pulled from his waist at me. I blocked it with my iron sword I had drawn from its scabbard, but at that moment Pierre turned his wrist and the blade that I should have blocked reached out to my pocket. Whoa, that was close. You dodged it. But there's still more. Pierre, grinning comfortably, fired off a series of stabs. I thought curved swords weren't good for stabbing, but I didn't know there was such a use for them. This was a bit of a lesson for me. This time, it's my turn, I said. Mew. I returned the favor and went on the offensive this time. Pierre's curved sword made a distinctive metallic sound as he parried my two-handed iron sword, but that didn't last long. Damn it, you're just a brat and yet? Then I'm gonna have to use both my hands. What? Pierre's claws closed in on my torso as I swung my sword. The attack came from two directions, so I was forced to defend myself again. Ora ora ora, a fist of steel to thrust, an iron rod to mow down, and claws of iron to tear flesh apart. The fools who looked at this thing in the past and underestimated it died easily with it, you know. Kai, I certainly don't want to do it. No one was stupid enough to replace their hand with a hook. For that reason no one knew how to fight a guy with a hook for a hand, and if you kill him, he won't be able to spread his fighting techniques. Perfect first-time killers, and certainly something of a nuisance, but, here, I shouted. Oh? I put my sword through the hook and twisted it at a ridiculous angle. Pierre screamed as his hand was twisted, but my sword was snapped at the cost. Since I had no intention of showing their stranger box on the pirate ship, the cheap iron sword that I had worn from the beginning could not withstand the impact. Tia. But it was no big deal. When I called out her name and raised my hand, one of the many swords lying around was blown into my hand by Tia's magic. I grasped it and swung it down as hard as I could, and a red flower bloomed right on the tip of Pierre's nose. Yujikia, my nose? My precious nose? You're shouting too loudly. It's just a little cut on the head of your nose, okay? I said. I'll kill you right now. Pierre raised his curved sword in anger. I dragged it out thinking it would be a bad idea to beat him too easily, but I figured it was about time. I flicked off Pierre's curved sword and bent down to thrust my sword at him in style. Duck. Tia shouted. What? I said. Exclamation mark. I ducked as quickly as I could at the sound of Tia's voice echoing from behind me, and another sword came flying at the spot where I was. It was the hilt, so it would not pierce me even if I received it straight on, but an iron rod flying at high speed was usually a deadly weapon. Tia, I'm sorry. I couldn't control my strength. Hey, leaving that aside, that guy. Pierre's face was white as a sheet and his legs were trembling as he received the sword I dodged straight into his crotch. It was a completely unexpected blow that I had no control over, but, as a man, my crotch was tightening up just by looking at it. Oh, oi Pierre, are you okay? Why? I was so mortified that I forgot my hostility and called out to Pierre, who slumped to the floor in front of me. Why yeah, with this it was settled. No, but it would be a devil's errand to wake them up and make them fight again. See Captain? Captain Pierre is down. Clear out. Clear out. Help the captain. Oh oops, I said. With the captain down, Pierre's men, all dressed in matching outfits, rushed toward us. We dodged them and turned back to Scarlet, and soon the grappling rope that tied the two ships together was snapped off by the enemy. In tandem with this, rescues of those who had fallen into the sea were carried out in parallel, and when all the sailors had been recovered, the enemy ship slowly began to leave the area. Ahaha, you look pretty good, Pierre. Then, no matter how solid your sheath is, you could at least strip it a little, right? Rebecca said. Kaha, Rebecca, you son of a bitch. Pierre replied. Captain, please don't push yourself. See, they say it's good to boil down in situations like these, you know? Shut up and don't move, Pierre said. Pierre yelled at Rebecca, who was laughing hysterically, while his men supported him by his shoulders. However, no matter how hard he tried, his legs were still trembling, and his enemies and friends alike could not help but look at him with a pitiful expression on their faces, especially on an all-male pirate ship. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Remember, new guy. Next time I see you, I'll fucking kill you, I swear to God. I ain't the one who decides that. Well, I'll never forget that pathetic look on your face, so it's all right, I said. Damn night you bastards, withdraw, Pierre shouted in a high-pitched voice as I answered with a smirk. The pirate ship wobbled away, and all that remained was our ship and the merchant ship we had saved. Well, then, let's raise the battle cry of victory. Ed and Tia, come here. Yes, we responded in unison. Rebecca called us to her side. Then Rebecca took mine and Tia's hand and raised them straight up. Two newbies took out that son of a bitch Pierre. We won. Ha! A win's a win, no matter how it was won. The shouts of victory echoed through the air with enough force to shake the two ships. T/N, Volume 2 will be out on June 1st. I'll try if I can get illustrations. CH 51. Chapter 51. Pursuing the highest profits by any means. We eventually settle for the good guys. No, it was really magnificent. A few men from the merchant side arrived on our ship with a small craft. Rebecca was happily talking to the man who came with a smile on her face. Hey, Makasu, did you bring the money? Yes. Here are 500 gold coins, please take them. Rebecca was in a good mood, and the man handed her a heavy cloth bag. Rebecca accepted it, glanced at its contents, and handed me and Tia 2 gold coins each. Captain, are you sure? I asked. Yeah, I don't mind. This time, you have done a great job. I'd be a fool to not reward those who produced the results, whether they are newbies or not. If that's the case, then thank you very much. Thank you, Captain, Tia said. I thanked Rebecca, who laughed, and Tia and I stashed the coins away. I nodded in satisfaction, and Rebecca turned her face back to the man from the merchant ship once again. However, you dished out 500 for the cargo. Is it really that important? Yes, it is. In this shipment, there is an item requested by a certain nobleman. If this item were to be taken away from us, we would not be able to get it back even with money. I see. Then wouldn't it have been more profitable for us to just steal it? You must be joking. I don't think you have an extensive network of contacts like we do. Ahahaha. That's for sure. Hey, Ed, what does that mean? The most important thing for a merchant to sell is trust, I whispered to Tia as she pulled my sleeve. Merchants can carry out big jobs because of the trust that a person has in them to deliver what is promised and at a fair price. If it's a commodity that can be easily obtained, but it is being transported by a ship, it must be valuable, don't you think? If so, the other party is naturally in a certain higher position. So rather than risk losing credibility by leaving a hole in a business meeting with such a party and losing all the profit, it's more profitable to pay with gold coins that can be replaced even if they lose a lot of money. But on the other hand, if the captain acquires such a cargo, there will be no buyers. There's no way anyone would buy such a valuable item from someone they don't know, so it will only remain as luxurious trash without any practical use. So, in other words, it's in the best interest of both parties to deal in cash, I said. So this ship was competing with those other pirates, too? Tia asked. That's right. If you rob a merchant ship or a passenger ship, no decent store is going to give you a decent price for it, right? They will take advantage of you and buy at a lower price, or, conversely, The merchants will rip you off and sell you the food and other supplies you absolutely need at a ridiculous price. If that is the case, then we can make more money in the medium to long term by protecting them, owing them favors, raising cash, and being able to purchase goods at a reasonable price rather than stealing from them. Is that what it means to be a pirate? Tia asked. That's a pirate for you. You ain't abiding by the laws of this country. Rebecca and her friends did not pay taxes and would not annihilate hostile pirates to avoid losing their own profits. If these were miscellaneous mercenaries or adventurers, they would be subjected to a tremendous amount of criticism because they would be forgiving the bandits every time they missed them to secure their own jobs. But Rebecca didn't care. If someone described a free life in which one had no obligations or responsibilities and could laugh at the evaluations of others, then that would be a pirate. Wow, you're surprisingly smart, huh? And then Rebecca, who had heard my story, looked at me with an eye as if she was evaluating me. Furthermore, even the man on the merchant ship who was supposed to be talking to Rebecca looked at me and narrowed his eyes. Certainly, many young merchants these days are only after short-term profits. But you must have been trained as a merchant to understand the importance of trust and to be able to think in terms of profit and loss. The merchant said, No, I'm not that great. What I just said was a theory, or rather, something I derived from my experience. Really? You came to that answer on your own, not from someone else? That's still. How about this? Would you like to work for us? We'll pay you well. Oi. You can't recruit a new guy without my permission. This is the promising newcomer who fought off the captain of that pirate ship just now. Anything more than that is going to cost you, okay? Oops, I didn't realize that. It's a shame that you're so smart and skilled, but I guess that's just the way it is. Ed, you're so popular, aren't you? Tia said. Haha. Give me a break. I chuckled and shrugged at Tia's teasing words. After 100 years of tumbling around in other worlds, I wouldn't be swayed by this level of flattery, but if it had been said in the first round, I wonder what would have I said? Would I have followed this man and been used up by him after serving him as an apprentice? Well, compared to being a pirate, it would have been a decent enough life. Well, that's all right. Where are you guys headed? Rebecca asked. We'll be stopping at the port of Charos. Merchant replied. That's not far. Since we got paid more, my ship will sail with you in that case. In exchange, can we use the port? It's rather tedious to carry water and food and stuff through the back. T/N, back here means illegally. Oh, by all means. Rebecca's demand that she be allowed to enter the port legally as an escort was met with a smile on merchants' side. It was probably not a bad deal for the merchants because if they were attacked again, there would be nothing they could do. All right. You heard the man. Our next stop is the port of Charos. We'll sail alongside Makisu's ship and restock our supplies there. I'll even give you an allowance for your earlier efforts, so go enjoy your first time on land in a while. Hoch! Rebecca's decision once again shook the pirate ship with cheers. After that, the ship proceeded without incident, and after about a week, the Scarlet was able to safely dock at a corner of a port town. Having 5 days of free time, the sailors dispersed to the town at once, and naturally, Tia and I followed the flow and went ashore. I still love land. I love being on the ground. I said. You're exaggerating. Well, I do understand how you feel. Tia replied. I remember being overjoyed to be back on land, too, during the first round when I was sitting in a tiny corner of the ship. In addition to my time as a mercenary, I had accompanied the heroic party in the two worlds, which had strengthened my spirit considerably. But even so, my strength at that time was not much different from Rebecca's men, and even though I was not a weakling who could be one-sidedly snubbed, I was not a remarkable warrior like I was now. So, even in the battle with the Baroque pirates, I only killed 1 or 2 enemies, and the amount of allowance I received was 1 silver coin, I think. I was invited to a brothel by some guys I was getting along with, but I refused because my priority was to find information about the heroes, and I became slightly distant from them. From the perspective of the ruffians of the sea, a friend was only a friend if he enjoyed drinking and women with them. Well, this time I didn't get that kind of invitation because Tia is here. What? Oh, no, it's nothing. Well, let's go out. I walked past Tia, whose ears twitched happily, and stretched out my body. The smell of the tide mixed with the earth, Impaling it made me realize that I was indeed back on the land. So where are we headed first? If we're not going to use Ed's thing, I, for one, would like a change of clothes. T/N, Akashic Compass, she means. That's obvious. There's only one thing we have to do first. My hand, which had been pointing at the center of town, slowly slid away from toward the back streets. We're going to go to the back of town and look for work. We need to make some money first. Yeah. The ears of Tia, who had been so excited, drooped down in obvious disappointment. Ch 52. Chapter 52. If your opponent reads your backstory, prepare a backstory to be read. Here? Tia asked. Yeah. Probably. I replied. I arrived at a shabby bar with Tia in tow, which exuded an indescribable pressure. Although I felt more than a little reluctant to enter the bar, mainly out of curiosity, I did not hesitate to go in. I had only heard about this place during my first round and never actually visited it, but there was no mistaking this unique atmosphere. When we passed through the door, which opened with a light click, we were met by a group of ugly-looking men who had probably been drinking alcohol since daytime, staring at us. But me and Tia, who were working as members of the Heroes Party, were not intimidated by their stares. We continued straight ahead and sat down at the counter, where a middle-aged man, the bartender, spoke to us in a heavy voice with an unfriendly expression on his face. This is no place for kids like you. The bartender said. Oi, why are you judging us by our looks? Is what I would say, but can we skip that part of the exchange, since it's such a pain in the ass? I asked. Huh? The hell? The bartender said. Oi, since when did this place start babysitting? Like I said, those things are a pain in the ass. I said. The thugs who got involved in the situation were knocked out with a single backhanded blow from me. It was different when the opponent was a magic beast, but it didn't take much strength to knock a human out. If one had the skill to hit the target accurately and sharply, and the willingness to accept the possibility of dying due to a wrong hit, as well as a banishment skill like Orbit Reflector, it would be an easy victory. Was it a lot? Well, it was probably nothing to worry about. Or rather, will it be easier if I tell you we are sailing with Rebecca on her ship? I asked. Tell me those things first. The bartender shook his head with a bitter expression on his face. It seemed that was the correct answer. If there would be a third round, I would keep that in mind. So, what kind of work are you looking for? I'm telling you, we don't really deal with big jobs, okay? He asked. It's okay, I don't want to be asked to do a massacre or something. Yeah, I want a job that can be accomplished in a couple of days at the most, and it can be difficult, but it should be a job that makes us a good amount of money, but nothing that will directly harm anyone. I told him, if that's the case, you're at the right place. As I regurgitated a list of convenient conditions, the bartender extracted a worn-out piece of paper from under the counter. Looking at the paper, I saw a drawing of what looked like a horse with horns on it. Magic beast? Unicorn? No, not that. Tia, glancing at the picture over my shoulder, muttered quietly, and the shopkeeper chuckled lightly and shook his head. There's no way a unicorn could be in a place like this. This is a Rubaru donkey, a donkey with horns, so to speak. It is slower than an unicorn, but it is much more powerful. In the Adventurers Guild, it would be designated as a Grade V magic beast. The bartender explained to us, in this world, as in many others, there were adventurers' guilds, and the Grade V was the kind of difficulty that a seasoned warrior would be able to handle. In other words, this thing was quite a formidable foe. Bring me his horns and I'll buy them for 40 pieces of silver each. How about it? Where does this guy reside? I mean, if it's just a regular magic beast, why is it here? I asked. Its habitat is in the woods to the east, just outside of town. But its horns are designated as proof of defeat. I see, so that's how it is. What do you mean? He asked. I understand. Sorry to interrupt. Let's go, Tia. Bye. Tia hurriedly followed me as I quickly started walking away. Then, as we left the shady bar, Tia examined my face once again. Hey Ed, what did you mean by that? I mean, why did we have to take up a job here in the first place? Tia asked. Why, we can't shop without gold, you know. I told her, I know, but you see, we got some money from the captain, didn't we? Even if we can't afford to pay for it out of our own pocket, we could at least buy a few household items with the amount she gave us, right? It was easy to forget when working as a member of a hero's party that consumed expensive recovery potions, but a single gold coin was quite a large sum of money. Prices varied from one part of the world to another, but here it would be half a year's salary for an average person. Certainly, with this amount of money, we would be able to buy at least the daily necessities needed to live on a ship. Look here, Tia, maybe you've forgotten all about it, but we're running from someone important and terrifying, you know? Do you think people like us, who have unexpectedly acquired a lot of money while on the run, will spend it without a plan? I haven't forgotten, but you'll use it if you need to, right? I'm not saying we won't use it. However, you never know when we might be abandoned, so it's normal to want to make as much money as we can while we can, right? But the Adventurers Guild is the first place one would hit if looking for someone. We can't show our face in places like that, so inevitably the only places we can get work are in these shady places. Yeah, I understand that. But if you really didn't want us to be found, wouldn't you even avoid doing that? Foo-fa-foo. There you go. It's true that if we really want to avoid detection, it's better to stay inside the pirate ship without stepping out of it. But if we go that far, it means the other party looking for us will have enough time to station his men on all the major ports and keep an eye on everyone who comes in and out. And, if Rebecca finds out that we are running away from someone who is capable of such surveillance, there's a good chance we'll be thrown off the ship. So, we take jobs behind the scenes to show that by not showing up at the Adventurers Guild, we appeal to the fact that we are being targeted by someone while doing a little work in town without being detected. So you're saying that by taking the job here, you're trying to give the captain an idea of the capabilities of the people who are out to get us? Tia asked. That's what it's all about. Furthermore, we can examine our abilities by doing the work, and if we have a track record of the money we are making, we can spend a little more without raising suspicions. If we do not do this and make a really big purchase, people will wonder where we got the money. Once, we might be able to cover it up by saying, we sold the jewelry we had in case of emergency. But if we did any more than that, we would be suspected endlessly of hiding something else. You don't want to lose your peace of mind and sleep on a ship that still has a long journey ahead of it, do you? I told her. What? Tia's mouth was left open, and I raised my eyebrows and asked her about it. Then Tia closed her open mouth and responded with a smile. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it in a weird way, I was just impressed. I've thought about it before, but Ed really puts a lot of thought into what he does. Really? I think this is pretty normal. It's definitely not normal. I can read the enemy's movements on the battlefield, but I can't predict a person's movements that deeply and act accordingly. What do I have to do to be able to do that? If I had to guess, I'd say experience. It wasn't just for show to cross 100 different worlds. The minister in Wafer's world was a cute little thing, but his numerous harassments using all kinds of schemes and tactics were almost like an art form. I used to get tangled up in it a lot, but now I was able to avoid it smoothly and bite back. Something makes me feel that Ed looks sad. Whoa, T, that's not true. Okay, really? Foo-foo Tilda, you say a lot of things about people, but I think Ed is pretty easy to understand, too, right? I was about to say something in protest, but then I just kept quiet. What? Tilda, it's nothing. Let's get on with it and get this job done. Of course it was because of Tia. I don't mean to utter such embarrassing words. T/N, last chapter of this month, won't be posting in June because exams start from 20th June. Thanks for reading and support so far. CH53, it's coming your way, Tia. Leave it to me. The horned donkey was much faster than I had heard, but Tia's sword easily sliced its legs as I pushed it away. Afterwards, as a thorny vine tangled around its thick leg, the rubbery donkey collapsed on the spot with a thud. Boogie, Foo-foo Tilda, how's that? No matter how strong you are, my snaros can shred easily, okay? Tia declared proudly. Yeah, that's true. Well then, my apologies, I said. Boogie. I sliced off the head of the rampaging, squealing rubbery donkey with my sword. I was still using the same sword I acquired in the recent naval battle, and this one seemed to be quite a solid sword. Yeah, much better quality than I expected. They're not only provided with clothes, but also swords like this one. I guess they're treated better than little town guards, huh? After all, you don't get paid on a pirate ship, and this is the third one. Tia said. While chatting, Tia swiftly chopped off the horns of the Rubaru donkey. The horns of Rubaru donkey were actually much harder than normal horns, but for her silver spirit sword enchanted with the highest tier magic, it was not a problem. 40 silver coins for a single piece. How much would it be if we took it to the Adventurers Guild? It's not a permanent request, so it may vary a little, but I believe it was somewhere between 10 and 15 pieces. I replied. During the first round, I would normally go to the Adventurers Guild to ask about the hero. From my faint memory of that time, I think it was probably about that much. Well, it wouldn't be too far off, probably. Why don't people just sell it as a standalone material for more money? Tia asked. Of course, that's because they are not bought out in the open. The only thing you can make from these antlers is a tiny amount of a dangerous stimulant. One of my banishing skills, Rainbow Glass, showed not only the potential of people, but also the potential of goods. That is, in what ways it could be used, though only roughly. According to the skill, if the powder shaved off from the horns was used as a material, it was possible to make a medicine that had a very strong cardiotonic effect. If diluted, it could be used as a normal sexual energizer, but if used concentrated, it could make a woman's heart beat too fast and cause her to die during intercourse instead of making her squeal, which made it easy to sell and be used for assassinations. I wonder if the Adventurers Guild knows about this? Tia asked. They know. That's why they designate it as a part of the evidence of killing intentionally. I replied. Tia tilted her head after listening to my story. It was true that one might not notice this kind of trick in an ordinary life. You see, a proof of killing basically specifies a spot that has no use for that magic beast, right? Like a goblin's left ear. I guess so, otherwise, they'll lose the money that can be gained by selling the material. That's why the guilds want to keep these horns as things of no use. Besides, when it comes to the parts of the proof of defeat, it is not possible to buy and collect them by submitting a request since they are officially forbidden to be sold or traded. It's intended to prevent adventurers from fraudulently raising their ranks. As a result, these horns, despite being a common material, have become a precious commodity that can only be obtained by taking down Rubaru donkey yourself, or by illegally buying from the guild, or from unofficial clients like us. There are a lot of ingredients used in dangerous drugs in plain sight, so by limiting the ways to acquire them while making them seem worthless. Wow, there are people in the world who think of terrific things like you. It's impossible to wipe out all the magic beasts no matter how you look at it, and there are plenty or people who will smuggle them in if they find out they're worth money. If people were unaware that there was gold dust on the bottom of a nearby river, they would step on it and cross the river. This method of reducing interest and restricting distribution was very reasonable, and whoever thought of it must be very clever. So, what are you planning to do with it? Are you going to give it to them as it is? Tia, who had shown a certain amount of acceptance, asked me with a gentle tone. If I said yes, she would probably distort her beautiful face and lecture me, but of course my answer was different. I will give it, okay? Otherwise I wouldn't get the money. But not as it is. What do you mean? Fufu tilde. It means, with a click, we returned to the shady bar. Once again, the patrons in the bar looked at us as if we were out of place, but quickly averted their gazes. Perhaps they learned that we were part of Rebecca's gang. What's up? This isn't like the guild. You don't have to report every time you make a mistake, the bartender asked. Ha ha ha, not that. Here, I said. To the bartender, who said there was no contract, just reward for results, I took 3 thick horns of Rubaru donkey from my waist bag and rolled them on the counter. The man's eyebrows lifted in surprise. You hunted 3 of them in such a short time? Well, I guess we got lucky. Actually, I had just used my banishment skill, Akashic Compass, but to someone who didn't know that, it must have been quite a surprise to have killed 3 of them in just a single day. That was precisely the reason why the man picked up the horns with his hands and studied them very carefully. It's the real thing. It seems a little light though. I don't know how much it weighs. What, lighter means cheaper? Yes, it is. It will be somewhat cheaper. I see. Then I'm sorry, but I'll take it somewhere else, I said, as I was about to retrieve the horns on the table. The bartender grabbed my outstretched hand. What? Wait. No, wait. Okay, I'll buy it for the amount I promised. 3 horns for 1 gold coin and 20 silver coins, is that right? Well, yeah, that was the deal. As I relaxed my arms, the bartender quickly tucked away the horns and instead stacked the silver coins on the counter and finally placed a single gold coin. This time I made sure to check the number of coins before tossing them carelessly into the bag at my waist. Looks like you're a lot more skilled than I thought you'd be. What do you think? Care to take on some additional work? No, I don't think so. I'd like to do some shopping with this money, and I don't want to miss the ship's departure. I see. By the way, can I ask you something? Is there anything more? The man asked me, his eyes slightly averted, with a slight hesitation in his voice. I don't mean any kind of trouble. I was just wondering why that young lady over there has been keeping her face down. You are, that's because she is a little shy. Is that so? I think the last time you were here, she was talking to me face to face like normal. Che, it means those days are coming. You're a grown-up, you know that. Okay. Sorry. See you later. Noticing that Tia's ears were turning bright red, I calmly, but as quickly as possible, left the bar. As we left the bar, Tia looked up and slapped me on the back as hard as she could. Edno Barker. What was that? I can't help it. I mean, the problem was you overdid it. Because. Foo. Cuk. Tia held her stomach and raised her voice in protest before I could. However, it was not pain that she endured, but laughter. Such a serious face. He said it's real. Cuk. Hey, my work is always perfect. The bag on my hip that I smacked had 3 horns in it that I didn't put in there, stranger box, just in case. The banishment skill, copy and fake, the effect of which was to create a fake that looks exactly like the original. But is it okay? If they cut it down a little, they'll know it's fake right away, won't they? It's bad to be deceived in the public eye, but it's even worse to be deceived in the underworld. They're not going to come forward and say, we're the idiots who got screwed over to get this amount of money back. That means, yeah, we won big. Grinning, I raised my hand and Tia smacked it. The booming sound of triumph echoed pleasantly through the dark back alley. Ch 54. After that, we enjoyed our first outing in a while to the extent that it would not look unnatural, buying necessary things and eating a little bit, and spent the last day on the Scarlet to avoid getting into trouble and missing the ship in case we got into trouble. As time went by, the ship left the land safely and sailed out to the open sea. I finally relaxed a little when I could no longer see the town and the sea filled my field of vision. Phew, that's a relief. For now, I had been bracing myself in case they prioritized taking revenge on us rather than making a fuss about how dumb they were, but so far, there was not the case. There was no increase or decrease in the number of sailors this time, so there was no chance of weirdos mixing in. But it's the same on Rebecca's side. It's possible she didn't recruit any newbies to avoid the guys chasing after us from mixing in. Only we, the people in question, knew that such a thing did not exist. Rebecca was naturally cautious and has probably been looking into our past over the past 5 days. As for that, I had paid an informant to spread the rumors about it. It was spread to the extent that even I was able to hear it, and I think we'd be able to fool them continuously, if they had only lightly investigated. Well, I'd figure it out when the time comes. If this didn't work out. While it was important to be prepared, I wouldn't want to be dumb enough to get found out just because the rumors didn't work. Tilda, I guess this means I have to say goodbye to land again for the time being. Next to me, Tia was enjoying the scenery. Soon we would have to start peeling vegetables again, but for now, it was a short break. So, how long do we have to keep peeling vegetables? Tia gently touched my hand and talked to me with missing talk. It was really convenient to be able to talk secretly even in public places. Yeah, I don't think we have anything else for a month or so anyway. I replied. A month? Tia turned to me and gave me a fed-up look. She was originally a beautiful elf, so even if she made a face like that, it would still be pretty, but it was not the kind of face that a girl of her age should make. Don't make that face. You're ruining your beauty. HMPH. I'm not going to be cheered up by such flattery, but the way you put it, something is going to happen in a month, right? What's going to happen? Are we going to save some ships from being attacked again? I'd say you're half right. Half right? Ha ha ha. If I tell you everything, it will ruin the fun. I'll tell you when the time comes, But until then, you can keep on peeling vegetables in the hope that I'll tell you what's with that attitude. And that goes for Ed, too, right? No, I have a hunch that they're going to give me another job. I think it will be easier to get information that way. Tia's hand, showing her surprise, broke away from me. But soon she grabbed my hand again, and then she turned her head down and told me about her feelings. I see, we can't be together forever. I'm not so sure. We're on the same ship, so it's just different jobs. I won't be forced to do anything dangerous, and even if something goes wrong, you can handle most things on your own, can't you? The crew on this ship weren't weak by any means, but Tia was clearly stronger than them. If it were a competition of brute strength, she might lose, but there was no one on this boat who would be able to push Tia to that level. Even so, Tia's expression was sullen. She looked straight at me with sad eyes and pleaded earnestly. But, how the hell am I going to pass the time if Ed isn't around? That's what you're talking about. Well, good luck, Ed. This time, I quickly pulled my hand away from her, waved my hand and turned my back to Tia and started walking away. By the way, Tia quickly got along with the peeler who took my place, and I couldn't help but have a complicated expression on my face. And so it went on for a month. The day finally came. I see a ship ahead. Just as before, a loud voice echoed through the ship. Everyone rushed to the deck, and I took slow, calm steps. When I went up the stairs to the deck, the sky was cloudy and raining, and raindrops were pattering against my body as the wind howled. In the midst of all this, the voice of Rebecca, the captain, of course, echoed on deck. Give me the status report, Rebecca commanded. One ship at 500 northeast. The flag is? It's Baroque. The sailor replied. Baroque. If it's not attacking some ship, just avoid it and keep going. Change course. East. Wait a minute, Nasan. The Baroque's ship is heading straight for us. So, Captain. Come again? The report from the man on lookout made Rebecca suspicious. Don't tell me he has come to fight with us in the bad weather. I don't think even Pierre is that stupid. Do you see anything behind the ship? Rebecca asked. Wait a minute. I can't see very well. Wave splashes? What? You're kidding. Sailor exclaimed. What do you see? She asked. A large magic beast. Supposedly, a kraken. Kraken? Rebecca was flabbergasted by the report. But that was not surprising. Kraken. A gigantic magic beast with a soft body and that was able to manipulate its 8 tentacles. It was a powerful enemy that could easily sink even a military ship with a metal hull, and to encounter it at sea was synonymous with death. Rapid turnaround. We'll get the hell out of here while Pierre and the others are being attacked. Therefore, Rebecca made a ruthless and calm decision. In the first place, they had no obligation to help each other since they were fighting to kill each other, and pirate ships, which were designed to plunder, did not carry large weapons like military warships did. Then that decision couldn't be more correct. Then I called out to them. Captain, a moment? Yeah? What's up, new guy? You're not going to tell me you want to help Pierre, are you? She asked. No, I mean, I'm going to take down that kraken. How about that? Wow. Rebecca looked at me with her big mouth open at my proposal. Well, that was the kind of reaction I would have if someone told me that they were going to defeat a magic beast that was bigger than a ship. Are you stupid? You're going to defeat it? How? She asked, dumbfounded. Of course, I've thought about that. With that said, I proceeded to briefly explain my strategy to Rebecca. Then Rebecca held her face in her hands with a dumbfounded expression on her face, looked up at the rain-drenched sky and sighed heavily. Tilda, I see. If you're going to drag me and my ship into this, I'm just going to toss you into the ocean. If not, you can do whatever you want. However, if it looks dangerous, we will escape immediately. Is that all right with you? Yeah. All we're worried about is the ride home. All right, then we'll get a small boat. Oh, no, I don't want that either. Tia. Foo Tilda. Finally it's my turn. I called her name, and Tia raised her shiny silver sword as if she had been waiting for me. There was already spirit magic imbued in it, and a pale blue-white light was faintly surrounding the blade. When Tia swung her sword downwards, a frozen path was formed on the sea. It reached the Baroque's ship, which was getting very close, and the ship, suddenly slowed down, staggered under the blow from the kraken's tentacles. It's going to sink if we don't hurry. Let's go, Tia. As you wish. Hugging Tia's body, I jumped down to the sea and stepped onto the icy path and used my banishment skill, Hermes Dash, and the rest was a straight line to the enemy. CH-55 Kraken. This formidable foe actually had another name. It was also known as the Gatekeeper of the Mist. Mist. Yes, Mist. The Gatekeeper of the Mist, in the sea where the Demon Lord of the Mist was believed to reside. And no one knew who started calling it that, or why it was called that. However, the fact that it had been referred to as such for a long time indicated, in other words, that there was a good reason for the name. I only found out about it on my first round when I stopped at a port. I was in a bar in a town where I had stopped to gather intel and told them that I had seen a ship being attacked by Kraken. Otherwise, there was no way a lowly sailor like me could say, "I'm interested, so why don't we turn around and contact the Kraken?" etc. If I had said such a thing with a serious face, I would have been easily thrown into the sea by Rebecca at that time. With one last cry, I stepped onto the icy path and leapt high into the sky to land on Pierre's boat. Pierre shrieked and wagged his hooked hand as I suddenly appeared on the deck with a thud. What? You're that new guy. Why are you here?" Pierre asked, flabbergasted. "Yo, long time no see, Captain. I was just thinking about taking down that big guy." "Huh? Defeat the Kraken? What are you talking about?" "Spare me questions. Ask your sailors to pull back. They're getting in the way of the fight," I said. My goal was to exterminate the Kraken, not rescue the Baroque pirates. But I didn't want to drag them in and kill them for no reason, even though they were pirates, and the rest was, as I stated, they would be a hindrance. "Hindrance? You little." "No, but if you guys are going to be our shields." "Hey bastards, better get your asses back over here." In response to Pierre's order, the group of pirates dressed in red and white shirts, easily visible in the rain, rushed back toward us. But as if attracted by this, the Kraken revealed its huge body, and some of its long tentacles wrapped around the fleeing pirates, trying to drag them straight into the sea. My sword slammed into the outstretched tentacles. The impact caused the captured pirates to fall onto the floor with a thud. But, shit, either way it looks like it's impossible to cut it off. "Tia, stick to the plan. Leave it to me." Oh shining mist of the moonbent water, golden gravel of the tremor-molded dirt. I stood at the bow of the ship to protect Tia, who began chanting, and fought off the Kraken's tentacles. The impact of the 2 or 3 blows received was naturally being accumulated by their orbit reflector. Breath of the spirits who bind light across 3 worlds. Freeze and exhaust and shiver in ice. In the name of Lunarisha, manifest, freezing ray. Ice light, a combined property of water and earth, was released from Tia's hands as she finished chanting. Blue flash passed by me and hit the Kraken, and its huge body was covered with ice. However, no matter how powerful Tia's spell was, she would not be able to freeze the entire body of a Kraken, which was larger than a ship. After freezing about 70% of the main body that was visible above the water, the spell ran out and the free tentacles became enraged and tried to attack Tia. "Sorry, Ed, that's all I can do." "Plenty." Daria. Using Hermes Dash, I kicked the floor and my fist, with all the impact I had accumulated from the previous attacks, landed on the Kraken's head. Normally, a blow like this would have little effect on a soft-bodied Kraken, but because it was frozen solid, the impact caused its body to spin around, exposing its large mouth, which was normally underwater, before my eyes. "Take that." I took out 3 cloth bags from Stranger Box, and put them into his mouth. The bags contained powdered horns of Rabaru donkey, which I had managed to snuck in from the request the other day. In other words, they were super strong stimulants. What would happen if such a thing were thrown directly into one's mouth? The answer to that question appeared immediately. Dash? "Hey, my ship, hey HHH!" Pierre screamed. The excited Kraken started hurling its tentacles indiscriminately at its surroundings. While Pierre and his crew were crouching with their hands over their heads, I precisely blocked only the tentacles that were about to strike the ship, while Tia used her magic to desperately support the ship so that it would not capsize. "Ed, how long is this going to take?" Tia asked. "If my calculations are correct, it should take about 10 minutes. I replied. "Understood." If not the Sword of Thin Life, at least the silver-winged sword would have been enough to decapitate the Kraken. But an ordinary sword would not be able to cut down this huge body. The same held true for Tia's magic. Its large, soft body was highly resistant to magic, which was why the Kraken had never been defeated by anyone. Therefore, it was a battle of attrition. If I had a more powerful poison, I could kill it instantly, but with no way to get it, this was the best offensive measure I could do. Once I had done that, all I had to do was trust and bite time. Struggle, rage. That's how fast the drugs will act. I screamed. Ugh, I wish you would be a little moderate. Tia muttered. Hey, help, help. Pierre screamed. The Kraken, whose upper body had long since melted, swung its tentacles, thicker than a ship's mast, around with a rumbling sound. Nudge, repel, deflect. After what seemed like an eternity, the moment finally arrived. The Kraken's tentacles, raised, suddenly lost their power in midair. When I poked the tentacle that had fallen down following only gravity with my fingers and glanced into its large body, I saw its huge, twitching body floating on the surface of the water. Did we do it? With maximum caution, I jump off the ship and land on the Kraken. With the utmost caution, I jumped off the ship and landed on top of the Kraken. When I confirmed that there was no reaction, I plunged my sword into its large eyes. And the Kraken still didn't move. Finally, as a good last measure, I tried using the Akashic Compass, and found that the response for a living Kraken was in the wrong direction, and it only pointed to this in front of me if I selected the Kraken corpse as the target. Oh oi, new guy. What's going on? Don't tell me? The attack had stopped, and Pierre peeked out of the boat with trepidation. But I completely ignored him and jumped back up to the ship with a Hermes dash, and walked toward Tia, who was nearby. Oi, new guy. Don't you ignore me. Hey, Tia. Good job. I'm telling you, Ed. I'm so tired. But yeah, like I said, don't you ignore me. Oi, new guy. Shiina Yuri-san. Really? Are you sure you have defeated it? TLN:*Shin''era:*newbie/new guy in Japanese. He is just calling him politely. Shut up. You'll know it when you see it. Now then, Oju-sama, your hand. Fufu. Thank you. I bowed and held out my hand, and Tia grabbed it tightly. I escorted her to a special seat, and under the blue sky, which had cleared up. Before I knew it, our achievement was floating on the sea in silence. Oi, you guys. Are you okay? Then I heard a familiar voice behind me. I looked and saw that the Scarlet had also come right up to the side of the ship, and it seemed that Rebecca had boarded this ship. Ah, Captain. Yes, as you can see. You. Why the hell did you answer Rebecca? And don't get on my ship without permission. Shut up, Pierre. He is my new guy. He is supposed to answer me. But it's quiet now, so I came over to see what's going on. Foo. Let's go, Tia. Okay. Ready. Kraken, defeated. Raising our joined hands high in the air, Tia and I announced our victory in unison. T/N, 15 coffee chapters. Thank you so much, whoever gave the coffee. DCH56. Heartilda. I never thought you'd actually defeat a Kraken. Rebecca, dumbfounded, walked past us as we gave the winning battle cry, and looked at the huge corpse of the Kraken. She must be feeling similar to when a small child goes out to play saying, I'm going to slay the dragon. And then he actually slayed the dragon and dragged its corpse back to the house. But I wasn't interested in Rebecca at the moment. I was still vigilant as I had been during the battle, and continued to carefully observe the world's reaction. Now, let's see what happens. Looking back, nothing much happened in the first world. Rebecca did not engage in any heroic activities, and no such incidents occurred. We sailed on our ship, sometimes engaged in pirate-like activities, and when we got to port, we would replenish our supplies and sail back out to sea. And that was really all we did. But it was strange. If I was sent to this world, then there must definitely be heroes and demon lords in this era. And judging from the circumstances, Rebecca must almost certainly be a hero. Then why did nothing happen? I've been trying to figure out the cause of this. And one of the answers I came up with was that it may be because she ran away from an enemy she was supposed to defeat. In the first round, we had no chance to win against the Kraken. It was indeed a logical or even common behavior to abandon the Baroque pirates who were being attacked by the Gatekeeper of the Mist and flee. But what if she were to act like a hero there? Even if she did not go so far as to defeat it, Wouldn't some kind of contact with it create some kind of karmic connection that would trigger Rebecca to start acting as a hero? That was the reason why I challenged Kraken to a fight this time. The results were excellent. With the help of Rebecca's underlings, Heroes party members, me and Tia, defeated the Kraken, who was lying in the sea. If nothing happened now, I seriously can't think of anything else to do. Oh, look. The Kraken? My consciousness, submerged in thinking, was awakened by Pierre's voice. I saw that the corpse of the Kraken was being transformed into particles of light as if it were melting. Wow, beautiful! Tia exclaimed. Ho ho ho, this is. Say, Captain, just to confirm, did you come across anything else like this? I asked. There is no way. I've killed many small magic beasts that attack ships, but I've never seen one turn into a glowing mist and disappear. Glowing mist? Huh? Then this was certainly a special event. Looks like I hit the jackpot. Look, Ed. The light? Tia called out to me. It's moving? I exclaimed. While we were talking, the light mist that had risen was moving in the opposite direction of the land, trailing behind us. In all likelihood, I could only assume that it was guiding us. Captain, that light, let's chase it. There's definitely something going on, I said. I do have a feeling that's true, but... Okay, I'm going back to the Scarlet, and you guys, come along. Yes, we responded to Rebecca's words and the three of us scurried back to the Scarlet. Fortunately, there still appeared to be a little time before the entire body of the Kraken turned into a mist of light, and if we left now, we would be well on our way. Rowan, how are the supplies? Rebecca asked. Supplies? We just left port the other day. We should have enough for a month or two. Grood, what's the condition of the hull? No damage. We can sail as usual. If that's the case, everyone, we're going after that light now. As a reward for being the first in the world to defeat the Kraken, I bet there's one heck of a treasure in there. Ha! At Rebecca's command, the crew started to shout and move. As soon as the Scarlet started moving, a man with a hooked hand, dressed in the theatrical clothing of a pirate, jumped onto the deck. Phew, just in time. Pierre said. Pierre, why are you here? Rebecca asked. What the hell you talking about? Half the reason you lot were able to defeat that Kraken was because we were drawing him away. But you trying to leave us alone and take the treasure for yourself. There's absolutely no way I'm gonna let you do that. Then why don't you just use your own bloody ship and follow us on your own? Why are you boarding my ship? If not for the damage, I would have done the same thing. If I didn't call out to you, I would have lost you, so I jumped on board in a hurry. I've given them instructions to take the ship back to Charos for repairs, so there's no problem there, okay? But I have a big problem with you. Really, I'd love to throw you into the sea right now, but I'd lose my future earnings if I did that. Fine, I'll give you a ride, but you better not act too arrogant, you understand? Shut up. I am Pierre, captain of the Baroque Pirates, you hear me? I'll at least polish the deck to a shine. You're going to polish the deck? Tia and I exclaimed in unison. The Scarlet slowly followed the mist as they engaged back and forth. Then the mist gradually began to gather ahead, but for some reason, only after we passed through the mist did it completely clear up. Further along the path through the misty valley, a rather large island awaited us. The mist around the island also cleared up, and it disappeared a short distance before the island. Looks like we reached our destination. Is there anywhere we can dock? Rebecca asked. It's tough. There is a sandy beach, but the draft is so shallow that if we get any closer, the ship might run aground one. I replied. Then we'll take a small boat from here. Anyone who wants to go. Rebecca's words drew expectant glances from everyone present. However, Tia and I intercepted all of them and stepped out in front of Rebecca with an air of dignity. Captain, you're not leaving us here, are you? Yes. After all we've done for you, you can't just leave us here, can you? I know. Normally, I would have complained about the rookies getting in the way. But since you are the ones who defeated the Kraken, no one can say anything about it. Of course I'll be there, so that's one more person. However, that must be me. Pierre said, excitedly. Who are you? You, Rebecca. I even polished the deck. Pierre, in a fit of anger, hurled his claws down. But Rebecca caught it lightly with her sword drawn from her waist. Naturally, neither of them were serious. But Rebecca gave an overtly wry smile to Pierre, who revealed his irritation. Heartilda, it can't be helped. Oh well, alright. Well, That's okay. It would be troublesome to leave someone like you on the ship and have it hijacked. I'm sorry, but I'm going out with them. I'll leave the rest to you. Leave it to me, Nay-san. Call me Captain. Good Lord. After giving her men the usual smack on the head, we boarded a small boat and rowed out to the island. It's been a long time since I've had an adventure with absolutely no idea what's ahead. Foo-foo. I'm looking forward to it. T/N. Novel ended at 552 chapters. How many worlds author covered. Footnotes. If a ship or boat runs aground, ashore, it hits the coast, sometimes becoming stuck there, staying afloat, capsizing and sinking. Ch 57. Hooray! I am the first to arrive, Pierre exclaimed as the boat reached the beach and jumped off. Everyone who witnessed the scene couldn't help but giggle. Pierre, why are you acting like a brat? How old are you even? Rebecca sighed and said, Che, you don't get it. Every man is like that. How old am I? 42? Is that right, Ed? Tio asked me. No comment. Following the excited Pierre, we disembarked from the ship. After bringing the small boat ashore just in case, I looked around again. It's still nice to be surrounded by deep forest, but there is a road, right? Tio asked. Similar to that. It's quite a grand thing to have a stone pavement. I replied. Che, since it's called Treasure Island, it would have been nice if all the sand on the beach had been gold dust, but nope, you stingy island. Pierre said. Tia? I called out to her. No, it's nothing. Let's just move on, shall we? Yeah. I was concerned about Tia, who was the only member with a stern expression on her face, but nothing was going to change if we just stood still. We followed the path for the time being, and soon after, Tia spilled the beans. I knew it. Something's strange. What's been going on with you, Tia? Don't you think it's strange, Ed? All these trees and no animal noises at all? Now that you mention it. Isn't there some kind of amulet that repels demons? I don't know anything about animal repellent. Rebecca asked. Yeah, I even had it on the ship, you know. Well, it didn't work on the Kraken in the slightest. Pierre said. To my surprise, Rebecca and Pierre didn't seem too bothered by it, but that was because they didn't know Tia's ability. As a skilled spirit magician, Tia's sensing ability was even higher than that of normal elves, who are naturally superior in this respect. To be unable to hear anything with that tier of senses would mean that there was not even a single animal over a considerable area. What do you think? I asked. I don't know. I don't think there's any danger, but maybe this whole island was constructed. The power of spirits felt here is totally different, she replied. I gently intertwined my fingers with hers, and Tia responded with, missing talk. I see. Artificial island. This was definitely a strong indication that something divine was involved. If there's nothing out there, it's better than being surrounded by a bunch of monsters. For now, let's proceed with caution, I told her. Rebecca, of course, and even Pierre, though they repeatedly said inappropriate things and behaved improperly, were no doubt seasoned pirates who fought many battles in the past. She nodded her head in agreement with me, and we continued on our way straight down the path. Soon after, we arrived at a stone structure covered with ivy. Is this another ruin of some kind? Pierre asked. Probably. Just out of curiosity, what do you want to do? I asked. Are ya dumb, new guy? I wouldn't come all the way here and leave without looking inside. I'll give you the lead. Are you being cautious, Ed? Tio asked. Leave it to me, ladies. I don't know about Pierre, though. You, aren't ya being awfully cold just to me? I'm not so good-natured as to be nice to an old man who came to kill me. The cool air caressed my cheeks as I stepped into the open mouth of the ruins. It was completely dark inside, and I didn't feel like proceeding without proper lighting. Tia, please. I understand. Ball of full moon fathering and illuminating the light in praise of the Yellow King, a pair of eyes of the spirit that are imbued with the light. Shine and crush the darkness. In the name of Lunarisha, manifest the fairy light. A ball of light appeared and fluttered out of Tia's hand as she finished chanting. It passed me and proceeded deeper into the ruins. But after about 5 meters, it popped. What? Pierre exclaimed. What's going on? I asked Tia. I don't know. Maybe a boundary. From the response, I think it's an inhibition barrier type thing, not nullification. Tia replied. They have a strict no peeking policy. Then, I muttered. Shoot. There was a lantern in there, stranger box, but it was too big to make it look like I took it out of my waist bag. If I take it out with a nonchalant look, they might let it slide, but if they poke into it, it might become troublesome later. What should I do? What, you want light? Then, ho! Pierre, raising his left hand, shouted, and his claws began to emit a pale light. It was enough light to illuminate the darkness and... isn't that amazing? Whoa, it glowed? Look, Ed, his hook is glowing. Tia exclaimed, it's glowing. Pierre, you are still doing the weird tricks as usual. Rebecca rebuked Pierre, shut up, I'm always ready for anything. And glowing hooks are cool, don't you think? I know. Rebecca muttered. Ed? Tia called out to me. Oh, no, number nothing. I thought it was cool for a moment, but this was what was called a distraction. However, the glowing hook cut through the darkness. It's nothing, absolutely nothing. Ha ha ha. You finally realized how great I am, eh? Then I'll lead the way from here. There don't seem to be any traps. Pierre was in a good mood and led us through the ruins. Pierre's claws remained glowing even after we crossed the place where Tia's magic was erased, so it appeared that not everything could be erased. I wonder what are the conditions? I'd like to look into it a bit, however. I said, that can wait. If we have time when we get back, save it for then. Tia said, oh well, oi, you guys. There's some kind of door. As Tia and I were walking along talking, Pierre called out to us. I immediately turned my head in that direction and saw a beautifully decorated stone door standing in front of us. Amazing. Tia muttered, HNNNMGHHHH. No good, it won't even budge. Pierre said, that's right. Maybe it has some kind of trick. Tia said, I guess, but I don't see anything that looks like it. I wandered around and looked, but there was nothing in the way of a trick that I could see at first glance. Since it was a one-way corridor, there was not much room to investigate, and after searching for about 30 minutes, no new discoveries were made. This is getting us nowhere. Then, I moved stealthily to a position where I was in everyone's blind spot and activated the Akashic Compass. I set the target to door opening mechanism and... What? Is there something on my face? Rebecca asked. No, it's not that, Captain. Would you mind opening that door for a moment? What? Do I look that powerful to you? No, now. Look, it's just a test. Huh. Well, okay. I smiled vaguely and said. Rebecca sighed lightly and then put her hand on the door. As she continued to apply force, the thick stone door opened noisily. What? Why all of a sudden? Rebecca exclaimed. Impossible. Rebecca, not only do you have big tits and a fat ass, but also stupid strength. Are you kidding me? No way. Hey Ed, what the hell is going on? I don't know what you're talking about. I just thought about giving all of you a chance at opening it. Rebecca raised her eyebrows and yelled at me, and I hurriedly waved my hand in front of my face and blurted out my excuses. Actually, it was because their Akashic Compass pointed to Rebecca. Does this mean that this was a door that only a hero could open? If so, what was behind this? Good grief. So, what's inside? Everyone in the room was speechless when they caught a glimpse of the thing past the open door. Floating on a stone pedestal in the stiflingly clear air was a trident silver candlestick with a long candle attached. CH-58. Floating in the center of the room, a shiny silver candlestick holding a candle in the air that felt as if a chill ran through the entire body just by breathing. Its surroundings were enveloped in a pale light, and the entire room seemed to glow, like it was under daytime sun. Hey, Ed? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. I nodded in return to Tia, who whispered to me quietly. There was only one thing I could think of that would make a difference. This light. What? I thought a great treasure awaited me here, but it's just a mere candlestick. And then Pierre, who seemed to feel no pressure from the air or the thing in front of him, carelessly reached for the candlestick. Oi, Pierre! Rebecca shouted. Shut up. It's always been a rule that the first to reach the treasure gets it. And if it's made of silver, it has some The moment he touched the candlestick, Pierre yelled loudly and removed his hand. The hell is this? It's so hot. Shit, if that's how you gonna play it, my left hand. No. You'd better stop. I said. Oh? Pierre, you an idiot? Pierre sprawled on the floor, swinging his slightly reddish metal claw, while Rebecca looked down at him with a frown. It would be a big problem if the metal part attached to the body gets hot. I doubt it was possible to remove it. Water, water. Pour some water on me. Who can't help it. I took a water bottle from my bag at my waist and poured it over him, causing steam to rise from his claws with a sizzling sound. As soon as it subsided, Pierre finally stood up with a relieved look on his face. Fuck, that was rough. Don't touch it anymore, okay? I ain't gonna splash water again, okay? But what are we going to do, Ed? We can't even touch it if it's that hot, right? Tio asked me. Yeah. Hey Captain, could you try touching it this time? Eh? Why me? Why would I do it when I know it's hot? Rebecca replied to my suggestion with a dubious look on her face. That's a normal reaction, but my conjecture was a little different. No, you were the one who pushed the door open a while ago, too. So I thought maybe you can touch this too. And since you know it's hot, if it gets too dangerous, you can just take your hand off it right away. Well, that's true. But, go for it. You experience its hotness too. Shut up, Pierre. Well, but at least I can try to touch. Rebecca, having been persuaded more easily than I expected, slowly reached for the candlestick. First, she touched it with her fingertips, then she wrapped her fingers around it little by little. Finally, she squeezed the handle of the candlestick and pulled it close to her chest. I don't feel hot or anything, huh? What? You're the only one, Pierre shouted. I don't know anything about that. Hey Ed, the way you've been talking, do you know anything about this? Rebecca asked. If I know what it is, then you know what it is too, right? It's probably there, Sword of Light. I said casually, and Rebecca and Pierre's voices overlapped simultaneously. Both of them observed the candlestick. Sword of Light seriously, and Pierre touched it once more and flinched at the heat of it again. Fuck. I knew it. Why is Rebecca not feeling anything? That's because our captain is the hero from the fairy tale, isn't that correct? I said. A hero? This wretched old woman with them wretched tits and a fat ass. A hero? Ha 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 ha. I see. I don't really care about being a hero, but this guy is pretty handy. Pierre rolled around on the floor 3 times laughing hysterically as the Sword of Light was shoved up his nose. Poor. Totally deserved it, though. Damn you bitch. What's the matter, Pierre? You haven't been burned enough? If you want, I can burn the sheath of your dagger too. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want a pile of gold coins. Why would I ask you to do that? Ahaha. Well then, now that we've gotten what we came for, it's time to head back. Rebecca said. Yeah, I'm sure there are no more treasures to be found here. Let's go, Tia. Yeah, let's go, Ed. Wait, I ain't got no treasure, can't ya? Listen to me a little more. With Rebecca in a good mood in the lead, we headed back the way we came. The fire in the candle of the Sword of Light was brighter than it looked, and even without Pierre's hook to light it, we were no longer troubled by the darkness. But when we left the ruins, the landscape before us had changed drastically. A fog so thick that we could not see our fingertips if we stretched out our hands was covering the entire area. It's a terrible fog. What's going on here? Rebecca said. Hey, Captain. That sword can dispel the fog, right? Why don't you try swinging it? Oh? Like this? At Tia's words, Rebecca swung the Sword of Light. Despite her vigorous swing, the fire at the tip of the sword did not go out, and instead, the fog that covered the surrounding area disappeared in a flash. Hey, isn't this awesome? Don't tell me it's really the Sword of Light? Pierre asked. Who knows? At least the power to dispel fog seems to be real. I said. Why is Rebecca the only one? Don't you have a hook of light or something? I don't think that's a good idea, Tia said to the raging Pierre with a vague, indescribable smile. If there was such a thing, it would definitely be exclusive to Pierre. Fortunately, there wasn't. By the way, Captain, if you are the hero, what are you going to do after this? I won't do anything special. I'll just continue being me. Don't tell me you thought I'd be wielding this sword to fight a demon lord who may be anywhere in the world. I don't know. But wouldn't you be able to make history if you did? I'm not interested in that. I am a pirate. I live how I want and die how I want. But, well, you're right. After she had finished, Rebecca looked up at the blue sky where the fog had cleared. If this thing can dispel the fog, it means we can get to places where no one has ever been able to go before because they were beyond the fog, right? It sounds like a lot of fun to go into places that have never been explored before and collect all the treasures that are there. The hell, isn't that awesome? Hey Rebecca, give me a bite of that. What? You want to take advantage of me? Whatever you say. One of these days, when I make a prosthetic hand that doesn't get hot, I'm going to take it from you and make you lick my ass. I'm not sure why you're telling me this right now, but it's very typical of you. It's alright. The world is not so small that I can keep it all to myself. That's the way it should be. Alright, then, let's get the hell out of here. First, let's go to the port of Charos. We're not going to Charos, okay? I'll lend you a small boat, but you'll have to go home by yourself. What? Then look. Please take me. I'll at least polish the deck. Ha ha ha, I'll think about it. Hey, Ed, do those two end up getting along? Is it bad? Rebecca and Pierre were walking side by side before I knew it, and Tia was whispering to me gently. Her jade eyes seemed to glow with curiosity, but my answer to that was only a shrug. They've been after each other for years. But there are certain things that only they know about each other. It's not just a relationship that can be easily described by the words friend and foe. It's complicated, but it's fun to watch. Ha ha ha, I agree with you. With the two of them bickering amicably, Tia and I returned to the ship, chatting and laughing. T/N, sorry for the delay. CH-59. After that, nothing happened and we made it back to the Scarlet without incident. We sent Pierre, who was fussing a lot, near the vicinity of the port of Charos, and yes, we didn't throw him out in a small boat on the open sea. Once again, our carefree pirate adventures resumed. But that didn't mean that everything was the same. Even if Rebecca herself had not changed, the behavior of those around her changed drastically. You'll not look to have gotten your hands on some sweet booty. I'd let it slide so far, thinking you all were just a bunch of fussy little flies, but now, I ain't gonna give up. Leave the treasure behind if you don't want to get your ass smashed. Ha! A little fly like you won't touch me or my treasure. You too, let that little punk know his place and what he's up against. Yes. Tia and I replied in unison. Until now, it had been quite rare for pirates to directly target pirates. But since we have acquired the legendary treasure, Sword of Light, there was no end to the number of people who wanted to challenge Rebecca. Well, the crew of the Scarlet, who were routinely engaged in anti-pirate warfare, were much stronger than your average run-of-the-mill pirates, and with me and Tia here, no raid was ever successful. And it wasn't just the behavior of pirates that had changed. Behaviors of merchant ships, passenger ships, and other civilian ships were also beginning to change dramatically. Oh, you're the famous Captain Rebecca. Please shake my hand. Also, if you don't mind, I'd like to see the actual Sword of Light. Yeah, it's fine. Rebecca shook hands with a small, fat merchant who offered his hand with a big and stiff smile on his face. She then picked up the silver candlestick she wore at her waist, and a gnarled candle sprouted from the base of the trident candlestick, lighting a small fire at the tip. Ah, this is it. This is the famous. How magnificent. I don't mean to be rude, but could you please sell this to me? I will pay you any amount of money you want. T/N. Merchants remain the same no matter which isekai or world it is. Is it hot? See, can I touch it? The merchant added, as long as you don't complain later, do what you want. In response to Rebecca's mocking words, the merchant reached for the candlestick. And you could probably guess what happened. It was an exchange that had been repeated many times already, and with her back to the merchant, who looked like he couldn't give up, Rebecca announced that the ship was leaving. Tilda, I've been seeing a lot of this lately. Good work, Captain. Tilda, Ed, I'm really tired. But if I ignore them, they'll chase after me. Ha, how about we just sink them all in? Don't be silly. If we do that, the army will be called out. Rebecca smiled and replied to the words of a passing sailor. It was true that we were strong, but at the end of the day, we were just one pirate ship. If the country were to get serious and organize a strike force, we would be wiped out in no time. Come to think of it, it's been 6 months since you both came aboard. What are you going to do now? Rebecca asked me. Yeah, I was thinking of disembarking the ship at the next port of call. I see. Rebecca paused for a moment to think about my answer, and then she just walked away after replying. I had no way of knowing what she was thinking. You guys will be out in 6 months, huh? Time sure flies quickly. The sailor replied. Yes, I am grateful for all you have done for us, senpai. Gahaha. It's fine. Ah, but, I don't care about you, but Tia-chan, I wonder if she'll stay? We've got warm pockets thanks to all the pirates' ships we've been looting lately, and if you want, I'll even take care of her. Huh? Who's going to take care of who? A familiar elven woman suddenly appeared from behind the sailor, who was wearing a crude smile. I know, it seemed contradictory, but that smile was the face I would make when I wasn't smiling in the slightest. Hi, no, Tia-chan. It's nothing. Fuck, she's so scary, I can't even handle it. See you later. Laughing and waving, the sailor left. Tia looked stunned as she watched him leave, but there was also a hint of sadness in her face. I see, so it's almost time to say goodbye. We've done most of what we wanted to do. Besides, if we don't leave now, we probably won't be able to get off the ship for a while. I told her. Really? Well, certainly if we don't get off at the next port of call, it will be months before we make another one. It's different. Well, I ain't sure about that either. If you want to stay longer, we can postpone it, okay? Only this time, it was quite easy to fulfill the condition of being expelled from the heroes' party. It may be difficult to stretch it out over a year, but a few months would not be a problem. But when I asked Tia, she smiled and shook her head slightly. It's fine. I trust your judgment. And, frankly, I'm tired of peeling vegetables. Ha ha ha, I see. Well then, are you sure this is the right place? 2 weeks later, Rebecca asked us that question on the deck of the Scarlet, which was now able to make normal port calls even though it was a pirate ship. Yes, we've been draining away at the results of our travels at every port we stop at. And with the captain's recent success, we feel we've had enough of that. Thanks for all your help, Captain. Rebecca chuckled lightly at my words and Tia's bowing. I didn't do anything serious. But, yes, if you say my efforts are useful, maybe I'll be able to see things in a better light from now on. Oh, so you really are going? Ah, I'm fed up with my neighborhood. I am venturing outside. Rebecca grinned. As expected. I'd love to see that. It would be interesting, but that was the reason why we part ways here. Whatever happens now, it was only reserved for the people of this world to enjoy it. I wish you all the best. Look forward to it. I'm going to have the greatest adventures of all time so that wherever you are in the world, my name will be heard. Adventure. I wish I could be there. And there, Tia, who finally understood the meaning of Rebecca's words, furrowed her brow in disappointment. Then would you like to come with me? Rebecca asked Tia. I'm sorry. I know. After all, I didn't know what kind of person you guys were. But I'm not so stupid to not realize the relationship between you guys. You were pirates on my ship, even if only temporarily. As pirates, you can do as you please. Tia, you two are cleared to disembark. Boom. Condition met. Only 10 minutes remaining to return home. A familiar voice echoed in my head. There was no turning back now, and I had no intention of doing so. Once we descended the ramp, the Scarlet slowly left the harbor. Pirates, to hell with your status. Be happy. With a final shout, Rebecca and her ship vanquished. We would be able to find out what was in store for us in a little while. Foo-foo. Hey Ed, be happy. Welp, that's the kind of misunderstanding I expected. Two people, a man and a woman, who boarded onto a pirate ship with nothing but themselves. The most obvious assumption would be an elopement due to love affair because of different social status. In fact, since Tia and I have been working together almost all the time, and for better or worse, the nonchalant Tia had been sneaking into my bed, it would be rather strange if she didn't think so. It's not a misunderstanding, you know. You saved me, and thanks to you, I've been able to travel the world and meet a lot of people I never would have met on my own. I'm happy. You know, happy to hear that. Tia smiled at me and I smiled back and extended my hand to her. We both held hands and hid ourselves in a corner of the warehouse district where no one was around. Soon after, our presence vanished from the world without a sound. CH-60. World transfer complete. Yosh, we managed to complete this one without any problems. With a lifeless voice, the familiar white world appeared in my field of vision, and I stretched out my back with a sense of fulfillment and freedom. Looking to the side, Tia also looked the same, somewhat refreshed compared to the last time when it was her first time. I wish we could have gone on that adventure. You're still going on about it? Because we could have opened up a world that no one has ever seen before, shrouded in fog, with our own hands, you know? Just imagining that makes my heart pound. Why does it have to be now to return to this world? Ah, now that you put it that way, certainly. Perhaps it was after we left that Rebecca the hero would begin to work in earnest. The most natural thing to do would be for us to go out there and offer to accompany her on her adventures. But because we interfered, that's why it turned out like that. I told you about the first round of the dream world, didn't I? I see. As I recall, nothing happened, right? Yeah. When Rebecca chose not to get involved with that kraken, it was probably decided that she would spend the rest of her life as just a pirate. But since we changed that, the future has changed. I mean, no matter what we did, we didn't stand a chance of being invited back. Too bad. Then what happened after that? Hey Ed, let's hurry up and read that book. Yes, Records of the Hero's Story. Tia was urging me excitedly, and I laughed and turned my attention to the table. Then, there was a book sitting graciously on top of it. From now it would appear normally like this, just as it did once. Ara, it looks like you've repented. That's right. Just do what you normally do. Let's see now. On there, Records of the Hero's Story, I held in my hand. I saw the familiar 002ND world written on it. Whoosh! Ow! It fell directly on my head. I held my head down and looked at the book lying on the table, the title of which read, The 003RD World, Records of the Hero's Story. Damn, they got me. Or rather, what the hell is this harassment? I could picture in my mind a godlike entity holding his stomach and laughing at the state of me. Seriously, don't mess with me. If I ever meet you, I'm going to punch you in the face. What are you doing, Ed? It's nothing. Tia looked at me with genuine curiosity, and I took my seat, feeling a sense of exasperation that I couldn't hide. Then I picked up a book and read through the contents with Tia, who was peering over my shoulder. Wow. So Captain was the second generation, huh? That's like that. Well, it was to be expected. Really? Why? Because a woman without any backing can't become a captain of a pirate ship. Although you can still manage to bring dozens of ruffians with you if you had the strength, it would take a lot of connections and financial resources to own a single ship. If someone could buy a ship from scratch at around 30, they would be much more successful as a merchant than as a pirate. So it was not surprising that Rebecca's parents were pirates and that she took over from them after their early deaths. The crew was well trained, and considering that Tia was never assaulted on that ship, even though she showed her strength briefly, it meant that Rebecca was a captain who inherited her predecessor's will and was loved by her subordinates. And this is where we got off the ship. Come on, Tia, let's read the rest of the book. Yeah, let's. Returning my thoughts, which had briefly wandered off the track, I focused my attention on the book. There, Rebecca's way of life was engraved. The last chapter, The Dawn of the Age of the Great World, of the 003RD World, Records of the Hero's Story. After parting from her friends who had brought the Sword of Light into her hands, Rebecca began to lead her men to challenge the Sea of Mist. The world gradually expanded as they sometimes fought and sometimes cooperated with pirates who were seeking treasure in unknown places, and eventually it developed into a global commotion. However, the world was still a big place. Rebecca thought that it would be a shame to monopolize the world alone, so she used one of the 3 candles on her Sword of Light to distribute split fire to those who were willing to pave the way around the world. Sailors around the world now had the means, albeit limited, to dispel the fog, and the world entered the age of the great expanse of the world. Even at this very moment, the fog was being dispelled at the edge of the sea, and the world was expanding. The challenge of the pirates never ended. Until one day, they will take over the world and defeat the Demon Lord of the Mist, who was believed to exist if the sword existed. Hey, they didn't defeat the Demon King this time? Looks like that. Unlike Alexis and Wafa, Rebecca didn't try to defeat the Demon Lord as a hero. When Tia finished reading the book, I responded to her with my own speculation. Although I was not sure if Rebecca was alive at the time this book was written, even if she was alive, I think she would not defeat the Demon Lord until the very end. In the first place, there's a limit to how far one can sail unless one is lucky enough to locate a place where one can procure water and food. If they were to build a supply base on an island or something along the way, that would be a national project that would take decades. No, if that's the case, It will be hundreds of years, or even 10,000 years, before the Demon Lord is defeated in that world. That's a long time. It didn't feel like anyone was in danger for the time being, so it's possible that no one is desperate enough to defeat him. That's how it is with humans. However, if the world became shrouded in fog as a result of them hundreds of years of doing nothing, and the place where people could live remained only a few, something similar to that, there's no way to reverse the situation even if they died trying. When you think about it, then certainly the place we left was a turning point for that world rather than Rebecca's. It was a tremendously significant event that humanity was able to obtain the trump card, the Sword of Light, at this stage when there was ample time to spare, and spread it to countless people by dividing the fire. For better or worse, desire motivates people. I couldn't help but feel sorry for the Demon Lord of the Mist, who brought his existence to the point where no one took him seriously and created a situation where he could win even if he just slept the rest of the way. But then tables turned with a single event. Anyway, the world was dying slowly as a result of them doing nothing, and then it was saved because of what we did. Well then, now that the mystery is cleared up, it's time to move on to the next world. Yeah, oh, but first. Yay! As I rose from my seat, Tia held up her hand to the crystal ball that was glowing faintly. Then the light disappeared as Tia's body shivered. Ah, what skill you got this time? Fufu Tilda, that's of course a secret. TCH, not again. Oh, well, I expected it. Tia smiled at me, and I couldn't help but giggle in reply. This was definitely a position where Tia's superiority shone through, so I could not help but understand her feelings. What kind of place is the next world, Ed? What was it like again? You also don't know? I can't help it, you know. I can't remember that much from 100 years ago. Aside from the world that left a strong impression on me, such as the first world, I couldn't remember anything about the fourth world. If I had a strong impression of at least one previous world, would I still be pulled? Or rather, would I still not be able to remember it? Fufu Tilda, it's fine. Then we'll have a new adventure this time around. But I don't want to be crammed into a box again. As expected, if you were to be crammed in a box twice in a row, you'd remember. Why are you unreliable just at times like this? Tia protested by twitching her ears, but there was nothing we could do about what I couldn't remember. Then we held hands firmly and walked through the door to a new world.